The seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It is indeed just after 9 o'clock on a Friday night. So, of course, it is that time again. It's Bustalgia time. And, of course, we've got a very specific theme for tonight's show. We'll be talking about, we'll be very careful with it. We'll have to just refer to them tonight as Skelpers for obvious reasons. Yes, you all know the reasons why. You all know out there what we're talking about tonight. But yes, we'll be talking about some Skelpers because obviously there's a rather big game on the horizon. So I thought, well, with Bustalgia, instead of doing a random season, let's talk specifically about that fixture and talk about a certain type of player that would arise on the big stage, give us a moment, give us something to remember from it, terrorise the opposition. So that's what we're going to be talking about, the Skelpers, digging into the Celtic archives and talking about some of our favourite moments, players and games along the way that have given us that excitement. Hopefully on Monday we'll see another Skelper arise in the green and white. But before we get to that point, let's do some introductions for tonight. As usual, is the Bustalgia team of dreams. It is Russell Boyce joining me tonight. Hello, Russell. How the devil are you, mate?
Jamming, man. Jamming. Looking forward to this. I think I was listening to the Clyde one phone-in after my shift tonight. I was out doing my usual walk and all that, and it was getting me G'd up for Monday. So I was like, yeah, it's a good night to be talking about it because there is a bit of, they don't call it the old firm anymore. That's absolutely their gift, not to. That's fine. I don't care. But it's definitely Derby fever kicks in at this point.
Yeah.
The one thing I always say about this fixture as well is no bigger one than the next one. It's always fine. You always find a fucking reason for it to be, but I know we've won the league, but you need to remember this will be X amount of games not beaten since then, and we can't let them back in because if they beat us, then next season they're going to be the momentum with them. So every one of them takes its own significance, and that always tends to be the most important yet. So I love that about it, and loads of good memories to go through and loads of icons to discuss as well.
Yes, indeed, there is. And this Bustalgia is like no other that we've done so far because I haven't sent you any notes, any homework, any videos to study.
I was raking for the email, I thought.
It's not that I forgot or it's not I'm feeling unwell or anything. It's just that I thought, let's take a bit of an open forum tonight. It should be fun. Yeah, we bit of carnage on the bus on a Friday night. What could possibly go wrong? Liam, how the devil are you, mate? Looking forward to this one?
Really
stuff.
good. I'm looking forward to it. You know, scalp. That's one of those words that travels with you from Glasgow that no one ever knows what you're talking about anywhere else in the world.
Actually.
You know, scalp and sclaff, and I think it's all East End of
Sclaff.
Glasgow words. You know,
Stramash. There's a good one as well. A Stramash.
Like that. It doesn't work over here, but
yeah,
it's like you always remember a good scalping, right? And a good scalper. And those are the best games. You know, the games that's us versus them. Somebody jumps up and arises and you know, does it away. And sometimes it's a manager, sometimes it's a fans, sometimes it's a player. You know, and it's like, you know, sometimes it's the referee must. You know? So we'll see. So I'm looking forward to this. Got plenty of good memories. And, and I've only ever been to one Celtic Rangers game now. I'll share that with you later.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, hopefully when you mentioned the referee there, hopefully Mr. Beaton isn't he deserving a scalping come mid-afternoon on Monday. Hopefully we're not talking about that, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And just to remind the folks in the comments, like obviously we on the Boise Bus, we love to get your comments up on the screen and interact with you, but just keep in mind there's a reason why we're calling this show Scalpers tonight. So if you include that other word as part of it, there's a good chance we can't bring your comment up on the screen. Russell's explained many times before in the past why. So if you could just be wary of that and just try and not use it, that would be really smashing, guys. But you know what else would be smashing? If you could do all that good stuff for us. You could obviously, if you're a new viewer on the bus, you've just discovered this and you're like, oh, there's a new Celtic channel. I've never seen this one before. Well, over 3,150 people have already subscribed. So why don't you just join the subscribe list as well? Hit that button and also touch the notification bell to make sure that you get notified when we go live. And obviously, you know, if you're a long-time viewer of the bus, hit that like button. Come on, there's no excuse now. You know the drill. You know how it works. Improve that algorithm. Spread the word of the bus on YouTube. And obviously get involved in the comments tonight. Because as I just said there, though, just keep in mind, be very mindful if you're going to get involved in the comments. There's certain ones that we won't. Bun Skelper. That would work. That'll work, guy. We'll go with that. That's
We'll
not
push
too
the
bad.
boundaries as far as we can. Eh?
Yeah, that'll get around it. And yeah, another thing to do, of course, is to share the link of the Boise Bus on any social media platforms that you wish. And of course, if you wish to become a Boise Bus member, like so many people have, then feel free to do so. None of our content is ever going to be behind any paywalls. It's just a sort of doff of the cap to the driver himself, because a lot of hard work goes into maintaining the channel. So yeah, we appreciate it massively. And what else do I need to do for all the good stuff? I know some good stuff we can do. I've got a trivia question to start the show.
Oh, you bastard.
I've got
that. He never lets up. He didn't torment me with sudden death this week. He'll have been missing it.
No, it won't be a sudden death, I think, till a week on Monday, because I don't imagine you'll be doing a Monday club on Monday night. No. Okay, I guess a bit of time to dig up a question for the next sudden death, but that'll be in a couple of weeks. Tonight's one, though, obviously, we're talking about games between Celtic and Rangers. So, the date range on this one is only going from 2010 to present day, guys. So what I'm looking for is there are 10 players that I have found. 10, right? Can you name any Celtic first-team player since 2010 who scored against Rangers, but not while they were a Celtic player? There's 10 of them that have done it. Yeah.
So they've played for Celtic.
They played for Celtic at some point in their career.
But their goal against Rangers came playing for a different team. Brilliant question. I don't know how the fuck you come up with this. That's brilliant.
Because I looked through the list here and I had to check and make sure that none of these guys have scored for us against Rangers. But these 10 guys have definitely scored for another team against Rangers, and since 2010 to present day. And there are some absolute corkers in there, by the way. Absolute one in particular is an app. It'll floor. So somebody on the bus in particular will end up floored by this answer when we get to it. But yeah, we will come back to those answers at the end of the show. So yeah, tonight is going to be a bit of a first of all, go come in. Chunks of my trunks.
Oh my god!
Thank you, Chunks. You big legend.
Thank you again. Yes, Chunks. He's at it again. We appreciate it massively. But as Russell said the other night, don't let it go to the levels of there was a little bit of banter involved in it, but we appreciate it as always. But there you go. It's
Thank you,
the
mate.
grass is green, the sky is blue, and Chunks is throwing money at us. Nothing changes. There we go.
He's an animal. He is an animal.
What a guy. What a man.
Legend.
What a man.
A legend.
But as I said there at the start, this is going to be a bit more of a free free reign, an open forum essentially show, because I think I've a good few episodes back I mentioned I'd seen a tweet one time. It was very relatable, where it was something like, you know, men can just sit around all night just throwing out names of random footballers and just, you know, kill 2 hours or whatever it is, you know, and that's what it's going to be like tonight. They'll just be like, oh, remember this guy, remember that goal, remember this game. But I think there's one guy that we should start with. He's a guy that I put front and centre on the thumbnail for this one. He is the original scalper in my Celtic world, because it was the first time I heard the term used. Now, obviously, Russell, on the show, we have done many episodes about the Martin O'Neill era. We've even done an episode all about Chris Sutton on his own. We've talked much about Henrik Larsson on Bustalgia, because he seems intertwined with the tournaments that we did. He had a long run. But there's a guy from the Martin O'Neill era that we've not really focused in on, and he was a huge player in this fixture. He got it. A guy not even from Scotland, but when he came up here, he got it right away. And that guy is Alan Thompson. I think he's the best place to start. So he's the first player that I remember a fan ever using that term, scalper. But yeah, Alan Thompson, a big game player in that fixture in particular. Some big goals, big moments, and a real resentment for them. He loved it, didn't he, Russell? He loved it.
He did. It's interesting as well when you're talking about that team, because when I was thinking about when I was coming on, I was like, I know we're talking about individual players, right? But just bear with me here, because it's important, because Thompson's... I also think there's 2 scalpers of outfits, right? If that makes sense. Like the real scalp. And I think the green and whitewash season, that was the original scalping, because to win 5 out of 5, or was it 6 out of 6? 5 out of 5, I think it was.
5 out of 5, 4 league games, a Scottish Cup game.
A Scottish Cup game. Incredible. And then the next one would be, as your Skelpers, would be the Brendan Rodgers team, which I think they got a clean sweep in 16-17 season, did they not? Or did they draw one?
It was a draw. Clint Hill scored the late equaliser.
Do you know what I mean? But a lot of them get obviously associated with Skelping because of the, you know, the absolute domination they had in the fixture. But interestingly, that team that Alan Thompson was in, they did the actual green and white wash. So special shout out to that. I think that's, and I also happen to think it curries a wee bit more favour that side in terms of scalps, because I do think Rangers, whether they were cheating or no, were a far better team than what they were in the later scalping era, where they like to Moussa and things. Anyway, with regards to Thompson, I would love to know how many goals he scored against them. 7, 8, something like that. You know, for a guy playing left wing back most of those games.
Yep,
it's fucking ridiculous. And it was goals with his right foot. There was a toe punt open goal. There was the emphatic free kick off the just around the top bins.
Yep,
and then there was the shot in the last minute where he just, what is it you call it? A thunder bastard.
A thunder bastard. Yep.
I mean, he just thunder bastards it. He just doesn't think, and that's the winning goal. He just rattles it, and it goes underside of the bar. Kloss is diving, but he knows he can't get there.
Yeah.
I think Thompson's a great example. Would have had 1 or 2 red cards in the fixture, I'm sure, as well.
Yes, he did.
I remember him getting... He got sold up the Swanee with a headbutt as well, didn't he?
It was Lovenkrands, a sell that a wrestler would have been proud of, the way he sold that headbutt. There's a lasting image of Thompson standing over him, like shouting abuse at him as the referee's holding him back after he's lying on the floor, like holding his face. And Thompson's just basically telling him, get the fuck up, you know?
My other memory of Thompson in this fixture, just quickly, Liam Powell, is Thompson's rivalry with Rickson in the games. I thought they were brilliant, and I'm not going to have anyone any pot shots at Rickson and that. You can fuck off, as far as I'm concerned. You know, if someone's died, do you know what I mean? And I've heard fans chanting all that nonsense in Bio, and I've walked through a pub once with my ex-bud and that, because I heard that just sort of bang out order. But that battle, you really did hate him in a footballing sense. Do you know what I mean? And Thompson's rivalry with him, I found a really, really good element, you know, during that era. You know, their sort of ding-dongs. I thought that was, I didn't even that kind of ding-dong. But I thought their rivalry in that department was brilliant. I have memories of Thompson, and definitely is up there, Phil. Quite right to be front, left and centre.
Oh, fair shadow of doubt. And we more about yourself with Alan Thompson and your memories of him in this fixture in particular. He was a big game player, wasn't he?
I think he was. I contribute to a lot of the goals and all that, but as Russell was saying earlier, I always dialed in on the conflict with Rickson, because he didn't always win.
Yeah.
That was a good battle. I was always a good story inside the game where there was all these rumours about Rickson chapping his door and all that, and there was a bit of bad blood between them. I think they lived in the same street or something like that.
I think they were next door neighbours.
And I thought some of the games Rickson did really well to throw Alan Thompson off. We didn't get our best Alan Thompson all the time playing against him. You know, he definitely had scalper moments and all that. But when that feud with Rickson started to escalate, I think Rickson started to end up getting the better of him towards the end of it, you know, and I was wishing, just leave him alone, you know, he's an idiot. But
they definitely could stir the pot with Thompson. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think when you look back, the one thing that Rickson couldn't handle was the ability, right? That wound him up. That's how he became fiery. Thompson got fiery by playing the old mind tricks and being a wee prick. And I think Rickson knew, ability-wise, I mean, I think Thompson, for me, would be my preference. I think Rickson, though, knew to get Thompson off that top level of his performance abilities, I'm going to have to noise him up. I'm gonna have to go and get into there. And you know what? It's part of the game. And you know, it wasn't like they were inexperienced players. These were two guys at the peak of their powers. Do you know what I mean? So they'd been there, seen it, done it, hadn't they?
I mean, Thompson was dealing with a madman, you know. It's like we'd all heard the stories about Rickson sort of slightly being off centre.
There were fireworks through the fucking
something like that.
He was going to put a firework, or he was pissing. That's what it was. He was pissing in his letterbox. Right. And Thompson's chased him up the road in his boxers. That's one of the legendary stories. How true, I don't know, but it was like in the middle of the night, Rickson's pissed as a fart. And he's like, yeah, singing Rangers songs and that. And apparently Thompson's came down just in his boxers and chased him up the road. Fucking brilliant.
The other good thing about Thompson that I think with these matches is he looked like he could win a square go, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Like a hardy bastard as well. And I always think when we play that, that's what I get worried with Kyogo and something like he's went doing really easy an awful lot of times and that. And you need a sense of physicality about you to play against them because the referees aren't going to help you. They're not going to save you, you know. And
Would you say as well?
Like Thompson, I think they like a wee bit of dig, you know, gets their game going.
Aye, Liam, would you say as well? See, for a guy who's out wide, and he predominantly played out wide, by the way, as well in his career, he was a tall player to have out wide. Do you know what I mean? He was I know Martin O'Neill loves a brick shit house. Do you know what I mean? But I think Thompson must have been over 6 foot, which is quite unusual. And you know, I'm just thinking back to that goal at Ibrox, the one with our Mordor, as we were calling it last night, and you know, he's some ability, nimble with his feet, jinking one way, the next, and
that one that Alan Woods is talking about. Interestingly, called it the Death Star as well.
He called it the Death Star as well. I've let you off, Phil. I've calmed him for last night. And he just strokes home on his weaker foot, which he wasn't renowned for using very often. Just curls it beautifully into the bottom corner. And I think the good thing with Thompson was, I think, his goal record for a midfielder, he always lived up to it. I mean, I think there's a debate right now about Matt O'Reilly, for example, hasn't got a goal this year. That would never have been Thompson. He always got his numbers. Year in, year out, he got his numbers. Particularly, again, as I say, for a left wing back to have scored in 4 or 5 year spell, 5 year spell, 7 or 8 goals against Rangers. I think that's phenomenal going.
Aye, his first one, if I remember right, comes in a game against them in the first Martin O'Neill season. The sort of forgotten one out of the run of games. We beat them 1-0 in like February or March that season, and Thompson scored the only goal of the game because you've got the 6-2 game at the start of the season, which is, you know, iconic. And then amazingly, they beat us 5-1 in the next game, which was just so weird, 6-2, 5-1. But the third game that season was 1-0. Thompson scored the only goal. It was a bit of I don't want to say a non-event, but compared to the rest of the games that season. And then you've got the final one where we went to Ibrox that season and beat them 3-0 on their own turf. So all the other 3 around that one stand out. But of course, every win over them counts, and that one was massive, and Thompson got the goal. I think he just outside of the left foot, sort of toe poke.
It was a toe poke, yeah. It was definitely a toe poke. Yeah. I think so. But I think that's. I think that Brown Warriors comments absolutely bang on, because he was again. There's numerous examples of it, but another one who was a prime example of the profile of player O'Neill wanted to sign. We're talking about profile of players that Ange likes to have, and I think Martin O'Neill had a profile of people he knew would leave everything in the park. He knew would have a strong character, strong personality, and he knew would be game. Then hopefully they'll have some ability too.
Remember Martin O'Neill? Did Martin O'Neill play against that? He must have played against that Leeds side back then, you know, the Don Revie, Leeds United and all that. And when you look at it, the football, you know, some of the old highlights that when Martin O'Neill played, it was agricultural at best, right? I mean, there was some chest-high tackles and stuff going in there.
Norman Hunter, Jack Charlton.
So I think he knew how to inspire players to play in this type of game, you know.
There's a huge thing about it,
Martin, by the way.
I think there's a huge thing about I think there's a huge thing as well, Liam, that was part of his strategy when he came up, was we need to get more physical. Celtic gets bullied by them. So I'm going to even the odds. Now, often we talk about Celtic's attitude is always just play better football than them.
Yep.
I think we did both. And I think that was the problem. We started playing football, you know, that was really, really impressive because you can't not play good football with Petrovs, Lamberts, Maverick's, Larssons. Come on. I mean, these guys are proper footballers. But then we had that mix where there was, if you want to play dirty with us, though, we can go long and we will pen you in. Yeah. Remember when we used to get a corner kick with that team? And ironically, it's Thompson who's probably getting a lot of the assists. But we're looking at it and you're going, fancy us for a goal here, like every time. So you see the three centre halves coming into the box to join City and Hearts, and you're like, fuck, that must be a nightmare.
Imagine marking Bobo, you know.
No, thank you. No easy task. But I think my favourite goal for I know it's an obvious one. It's got to be the one in the 04-05 season, the mentioned there by Sean Barlow. That the safe under bastard. And the thing about that game is that's the first one in the Martin O'Neill era when Henrik Larsson's left. So there's that whole uncertainty going into the game where you're like, hey, Larsson's way now. It was 0-0 to about the 87th minute, and you're thinking, you know, I know Juninho had a good debut that day.
He was excellent.
But ultimately, it was still 0-0, 87th minute. But then old reliable Thompson pops up to just remind us. I can always remember as well the commentary. I think Mark Hateley was on co-commentary that day for Setanta. It was one of the first seasons Setanta were covering Scottish football. And he said that Alan Hutton's defensive header, because the ball comes in and Hutton headers it out the box right to Thompson, about 25 yards for goal. And even in the replay, after Thompson scored, Hateley's like, oh, it was a great header there by Hutton. It's like, well, no.
What, he says that?
Evidently it was there. Because I'll go back, see if you go back on YouTube and find the clip. They might have the commentary on it. And he goes, oh, it was a great defensive header from Hutton as well. And they're like, no, evidently it was there. Because he headed it right to an opposition player who then lashed it into the fucking top corner off the crossbar as well for good measure. Oh,
why would he say it again? Why would what?
I remember him saying it in the commentary, and I was like, well, no, it's no, because he gave it. Well, it's good for our point of view. I fucking loved it. It was great defending from my point of view, but imagine from a Rangers fan point of view, it wasn't that much fun when he heads it right to Alan Thompson. Maybe they didn't expect him to shoot for there, but Thompson just lines it up and is like, fucking having this here.
It's just a swipe, but it's done so well, isn't it? I mean, it's like, I mean, I do think that's when you've just got a lot of natural ability though to strike a football. When, you know, if we and you just swing at it as hard as we can, it fucking could go anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I do think he's just had a swing at it, but the natural technique is what means it's, you know, it bends and it's just impossible for Kloss to save that anytime. Do you know what I mean? The circumstances that Sean Barlow's talking about there, I totally agree with it as well. I mean, that was huge in context.
Aye. Say first one after Larsson left, so we needed somebody to step up and get the victory over them because we were struggling to score that day. It was looking like it was heading a 0-0 draw, but Alan Thompson was having it. And of course, the other one that stands out is the Nakamura-esque free kick that he scored in the whitewash season. We beat them 3-0, and it's honestly, I think it's the same distance out from Nakamura's goal against Man United. When you look at them side by side, same corner as well, left-footed player on the same sort of angle towards the goal. And honestly, I think the distance can't be too far apart. And fucking hell, man, just pick it out. You know,
that just shows the difference because Nakamura's is so deliberate. The slicing through the ball to make it do that bend. He is so evident. And again, as I said, I just think Tomo's just went, oh, fuck this, have it. He set it off his laces, and I think Nakamura's was really, really cut across that. You get the same bend somehow, but mental.
Oh, he was. He's there. He's for me and my sort of Celtic supporting life. He's the original Skelper because I hadn't heard the term get used until Alan Thompson came along and the record he had against him He's a big man for the big occasion. He is the main inspiration behind tonight, so that's why I put him front and centre on the thumbnail. But somebody else that I would bring up, because tonight it's not all just about guys that might have just scored against them all the time. There's different ways to scalp them, so to say, get under their skin maybe. Just be a guy that just knows what it's all about in the fixture, how to annoy them, how to antagonise them. And no doubt about it, a guy that done that better than most over the last decade, of course, he's now left, he's now a manager himself, is Scott Brown, of course, has to be considered as one, because he knew how to really aggravate them and get them off their game at times. One of the instances that stands out to me is we beat them in 2019. James Forrest scored a late winner, and after the game, Bruni goes over to the Rangers fans in the corner, does his trademark celebration, and Andy Halliday completely loses the plot. And there's a lasting image in my head of a raging Andy Halliday trying to square goal with Scott Brown, but him, Christopher Ayer and Scott Bain are all just kind of holding him at arm's length, and they are all literally laughing in his face. Like, what are you doing? Scott Brown just knew how to just throw them off at times, he was over the years, but he, for me, gets into that sort of scalper category, because, he just knew how to wind them up, didn't he, Russell?
He did. I let Liam go first on Scott Brown. I went first and probably stole all his points on Thompson, so I let Liam go first.
What's this? Oh, good, he's no mentioning Ericsson, man. And he's like, oh, no, I'm
That's exactly what I picked up on. So I'll let you go first this time, mate.
I think Bruni was better at getting it up them than he was as an actual. Well, what I like about these games is, like, I think a scalper is a guy that can raise his game. And I think Scott Brown did that. And if he couldn't raise his game, he would raise his profile on the park. But I was going to be the daddy. I'm going to show you who is the boss of this park today. And you can see that in everything he did. I mean, if you want to see a VAR highlight reel, how many times did he get kicked and elbowed and punched and all that by guys like Morelos and all that, all off the ball? And he could create a good feud out of absolutely nothing. I mean, there's times where I saw him outside of playing Rangers where he's running at laughing at goalies after they've given up a goal and, and things like that. And that's a team he's no built up a rivalry or a hatred with at this point. Imagine what he's like against them. And so I'd love to hear what some of the chatter was on the park, some of his patter was as well, because I think it'd be actually quite chirpy as well, and that'd be a good laugh too, like what he says to get under their skin, And
did you see the one recently, Liam? It was from the game we beat Hearts in the COVID season in the cup final. Obviously, there's no fans there. There was a clip doing the rounds. I think it must have been the anniversary of it, a year or 2 years to the day, and it's Andy Halliday. He was playing for Hearts at that point. He got a booking. And Scott Brown says something, and if you're a lip reader, you can make out what he says. He says something along the lines of, "I'll tell you, I've no missed you, by the way," because Halliday's been playing in the second division at that point, or the first division. Halliday gets booking, and Brown's just sort of laughing and goes, "I've missed you, by the way," just to wind him up, because Hearts were a first division team at that point, or championship team. So I guess
if you had to pick at all the brilliant people that have played in this fixture, like some Rangers players as well with character and all that. The one you would not count and getting a media gig and being a celebrity personality would be Andy Halliday. Like, of all the no marks to ever play against us, it's like, how does he have this popularity in that? Because it's nothing about the guy, he'd need personality. He could never show up in one of the games and change the game, so don't know where that hero worship comes from, but going back, Scott Brown, I mean, it never phased him either. You could kick the shit out of him and he just bounced back up. Same look in his face. He never looked like he was angry. He never looked like he just always looked like he was trying to do really difficult math in his head, just sort of distant stare,
Aye. The one that stands out to me, Russell, is the infamous Joey Barton feud that never really became a feud in the end. It was a total damp squib. All the build-up, all the hype going into that game about the battle between Joey Barton and Scott Brown. And I was the last game Joey Barton ever played for them, and then he was off ski no long after with a big fallout with Warburton. But it's the interview that Brune does after the game, I'm pretty sure he just sort of laughs off when he said
men versus boys.
Men versus boys. He just shrugs it off. It's like it was just another day at the office for him. A walk in the park out there that day. But he was when it came to getting under their skin, Joey Barton would have been just, of all the people to be on the other side against him, it was like, oh, Brune's gonna have a field day with this guy. And he certainly did.
Well, I think he's synonymous with a couple of these bouts, and I actually think it's through that is where he became, for me, the guy I think of as the scalper. I know Mr. Dembele gets the nickname, but when I think of that 10 years of dominance, and it's Scott Brown was at the, he was at the forefront of so much. Now you always go back to the game where we're 2-1 down, 10 men at Ibrox, Lennon's first season.
Yep.
And Celtic were fucking unbelievable that second half.
Wow.
I remember I went, this is a team, by the way. We're passing them off art, and of course it culminates in Brune curling a left foot peach into the far corner and turning and having the presence of mind to know El Hadj Juice right fucking there and just turn around to do that face and all that. It's like and the pose, and I just think that's when you went. He's just put himself now, as the poster boy of this fixture. That's it. He's going to need to live up to it. But that's where you put your big boy's pants on, Phil.
That's it.
That's when you put a bit, and then he steps up, and I think then he looked. I think he realised Juve did me a favour because I realised when I'm getting that shite, that snash, I'm better.
Aye.
If I'm breaking up, just tell me, by the way.
No, you're okay, you're all right.
All right, sound. I'm getting a wee stupid fucking thing in the corner. It's doing my hands and I'm raging. Anyway, with regards to these feuds, yes, you then get the Joey Barton one. The Joey Barton thing was interesting because I think the reason Scott Brown was so calm about everything is because he knows what's going on with Rodgers at this point. Yeah. He's the one who's in the know. He's the one who's had the meetings with him to convince him that he can come back. He's the one then been watching the training sessions, watching the guy's vision, listening to him talking, going, oof, we are going to fucking pump them. Just kept it all stum. He just kept it all quiet and let Joey Barton rant. And then he goes, well, the one thing he did say right is, I'm not in his league. He's in my league. I've never been in his league. And he said that before the game. That was the first warning shot. I think you went, Brune's fucking quietly confident here. And then you've got the death stare, not the Death Star, the death stare at the handshakes. And Joey Barton, for whatever reason, already has shat the bed. Reality was dawning on Joey Barton. I think he looked around his dressing room that day and realised they're shite.
Yeah.
I've spoke so much as if it's only going to be Joey Barton versus Celtic. He's like, it actually might be because they're hopeless. I think there was a realisation. And then when you've got Scott Brown almost having, smoke coming out his nostrils, you know what I mean? He's just staring. Right, like, fuck that, man. And he looks down and he's sort of cowering it. But then you're right, Liam, what you were saying too about the antagonization. Again, we score a goal against Rangers. My first thought is just to lose my mind, right? He runs back, notices where Joey Barton is, starts running backwards doing this to him. Like, fuck, how is he thinking of this? Like, he's got this mad presence of mind where he just seems to, a wind-up seems to be right up there in his list of priorities in life. Do you know what I mean? Because you just don't miss the opportunities, Phil.
It's true. It's very, very true. Now, a minute ago, though, you said something interesting that just a light bulb went off over my head. That's actually a good talking point. You talk about the Joey Barton and Scott Brown thing where Joey Barton's mouthing off, a lot of bravado, a lot of gusto, and Scott Brown's quite calm and just like a wee, quietly confident, just a wee dig here and there. Is that not quite familiar to something that we're seeing right now in the build-up to this game on Monday? Michael Beale, all the sound bites he's throwing out there. And it's like Mark said it last night in the TNF where Ange very purposely on Wednesday night said, I've got the fittest team in the league. It's very deliberate that he would mention stuff like that. And again, it's like he's just very quietly putting it out there. He doesn't need to shout from the rooftops.
Great point.
But it seems like somebody from the blue side of Glasgow once again is shouting from the rooftops. While the green side are like...
came for fucking QPR.
QPR. QPR.
They both came for QPR. I'm like, what does it put in your Weetabix down there? Like, you just suddenly come up here and you're going to stroll it. Are you mental? And I'm telling you, Liam, I think that's a great comparison. Michael Beale is, you could say he's wound me up, but I've not shown him any respect from what I'm hearing of him, because he ain't shown any himself. The only thing he's done is had to climb down after calling us the other team, and he's shot the bed on that one, right? Yep. He didn't expect it to blow up. But he knew what he was saying. He was playing to the gallery, like all his other silly wee comments have been. Yep. But this is not me animated because, oh, Mickey Beale, I don't give monkeys, mate. I'm honest. I'm like that. He's a guy who's managed 24 games. And, this is how you trust people in life, William, right? When you're literally allowing it and you're quite enjoying this narrative spin that now is, Mickey Beale is the brains behind the 1 out of 9 trophy domination that Rangers had. Firstly, if that's your claim to fame, even if you were the manager, okay, up to you, right? But what a Snyder. What a Snyder letting that all go. He's never nipped it in the bud and went, I was part of a coaching team there. Stephen, deserves a... Never mentions it. Honestly, I'm like, that is naughty. And I think he has definitely came with an inflated ego that's only QPR seem to be able to fucking put in people. But there is grandeurs, Liam, of delusion as well. Very similar to Mr. Barton.
Yeah.
There's an old movie from the 1980s called How to Get Ahead in Advertising. Peter Grant or something that's in it. And it's about this guy that's got a boil growing on his neck, and it starts talking to him, and it's got its own, it becomes his ego, and it's all these daft things, and just like, it becomes him, and it's pushing him. It's like, come on, you shouldn't be putting up, say this, say that. I think he might be going through the same thing right now.
Yes.
Is it spelled Beale? Close enough.
There you go, Richard E. Grant. Alan Woods just came in and said Richard E. Grant.
It's a brilliant film. If you watch that, I think that could be give us some clues to the Michael Boyle.
Michael Boyle.
Ali McBeal. The fuck goes.
Swally McBeal. You'll need it after Monday. But I think that's odd him coming out in it, especially when I think he's going to bite him in the arse. And I listen to him as well, and I've listened to English coaches and all that. He's got a very lazy way of talking, and I always find it adorable when Scottish, like, we sign a player for somewhere else, and the message was, oh, he speaks really well. And I notice Rangers players really, oh, he speaks really well.
What is this bollocks?
I don't know, right? I don't care if he speaks well. He just has to play football, right? You can no talk a lot. It doesn't want to. But I think he speaks really, not becoming of a Brown Brogue type manager. I expected a bit more for the people on that one. That they seem to have slid down a bit. I know they can wear suits and stuff at the games, but maybe a bit of elocution lessons. And I'm the one to offer it. I'm for the other side, so.
No, exactly. But I think
man, come on, bring him.
I think when you're coming into a situation like Barton was coming into that one at Rangers, you're the one chasing here, by the way, big boy. Right? Let's get it fucking right. There's one team dominating the country right now. There's one team who's got the best manager in the country. Both Barton and Beale will be proven to be miles off it. That starts Monday, in my opinion.
I had the game advertised earlier this week. I don't know, it was one of the other platforms or radio stations, and it was Michael Beale's unbeaten Rangers side. That's who Celtic are playing, and it's like, they're the unbeaten side. Well, I guess if they lost the game with him, but they've dropped a lot more points. It's weird how they frame it that way,
I think there's a lot. I think there's a deliberate narrative where, and do you know what? It's maybe not the worst thing for the Scottish game that Sky have taken an interest again. So this is when Sky Sports will come alive, because Sky Sports comes alive when they've got. You can't deny when they put in their biggest money into the game, it was because the likes of Chris Sutton was coming up, Hartson, etc. for England, and they like that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's relatable characters, and they think they'll get a larger English audience tuning into the Scottish game, which really, because of our population, you need, your English subscribers to somehow turn on to this. So guys from English clubs going up there, I think, are always going to get more airtime. And they're going to get a wee bit of favour. I don't think it's quite fucking. Do you know what I mean? sycophantic, whatever you say that word. I just think that he's going to get a lot more love than what this. If this was Pedro Caixinha coming up with this push, do you know what I mean? Because they're wanting to encourage Mickey Beale's ex-QPR manager. You know what I mean? They're wanting, hopefully, to get on Monday a percentage that is larger because of an English manager coming up from an English club mid-season to Scotland. They're hoping to get a higher percentage in the ratings from an English perspective. They know the Scottish audience will be huge for the game, but that's how they've got to work it out. So I think it's a wee bit. There's a bit of that, but the hacks up here are the ones I don't get.
Yeah,
the buy-in that Shy is just so bad. Like, he's talking about 3-point gap, and that's just illusion. There's no other two ways for it. It doesn't even make sense what he's talking about. And I'm like, I just need to challenge him on that. Why is anyone going, well, where'd you get that from? Have you got any respect for the other teams that Rangers did lose to?
No.
Where are you pulling this from?
He's learned from his former boss, Steven Gerrard, when he came up with the 86-minute league table, whatever it was, comments like that, remember? So it must just be a thing. Remember that one? Oh, if games lasted 86 minutes, we'd be top of the league. But they don't, Steven. So there you go.
What's the point?
What's your point? What's your point, caller? But no, when you mentioned that there about the Barton and Brown thing, I was like, that's very similar to what we've seen in the last few weeks. That's exactly it. And we know how it all ended. The ballad of Joey Barton ended. So it might go the same way for Michael Beale, but we shall see on that one. But yeah, Scott Brown, without a shadow of a doubt, he knew how to get under their skin and how to antagonise them. So say a scalping of them comes in many different ways. It doesn't need to be goals. But speaking of Scott Brown and that attitude that he had on the park, here's a guy that I think we need to bring up, because it's not just the guys on the park that can do a bit of scalping. In my time supporting Celtic, and one manager's era in particular, I think there was a certain manager I was in the past that really loved a victory over them, and I think he had a lot of influence in Scott Brown, and it's this guy, Neil Lennon. So on the park he did his bit, but I think seeing that manager era that he had as well, there was one season in particular we played them 7 times. It was too much at one point. I was like, I can't handle this. Too many games against them.
When he was a player?
What's that?
Was that when he was a player of those 7 games?
No, manager, 2010-11 season. We played them 4 times in the league. We played them in the League Cup final. We had the Scottish Cup game that ended 2-2, and then a replay 7 times in the one season. Genuinely, it was like, can't handle this. But that team under Lennon and the attitude that he passed on to them, there was a lot of scalpers in there. But Neil Lennon in particular, and when I think of a game against them, particularly at Ibrox, on the 2nd of January, there's one guy that comes to mind, and this was under Neil Lennon's watch, Georgios Samaras, a total maverick, because he's synonymous with that one game that he had against him. You go on and do well under Lennon, but at that point in time, he was going nowhere at Celtic. He came in under Strachan, had a decent enough start, and had petered out massively. And then under Lennon, there was that game at Ibrox on the 2nd of January 2011, where we had a real injury-ravaged squad as well. Samaras started up front himself that day, scored the 2 goals. This is one of the things that, again, you've said it before, Russell, a lot of the modern-day fans, the newer fans, they don't understand and appreciate what Neil Lennon's done in the past for the club.
Yep.
His first tenure, what he did as a player, as captain and stuff like that. They'll always look at what happened recently, and yeah, he does take a massive part of the blame, but there was a lot of factors that went wrong 2 years ago. But see, that first run as manager, his turning round of Georgios Samaras was a huge moment he doesn't get enough credit for, because for me, he became a big game player after that, and he goes into the Scalper Academy for me as well, just for that performance. But Lenny just went to him. As you said, he's got that sort of like, you're my guy, you're the guy who's going to do this for me today. He probably drummed that into Samaras's head that you're just going to turn it on, man. And he did. He absolutely blitzed him that day. The image of Alan McGregor coming out and going around him and put it in the empty net. Brilliant.
Let's get one thing straight about fucking that first tenure, Lennon. This is how it's now being portrayed, and you've seen this all over Twitter and all that. You mean the guy who cost us what could have been 1 in a row? You know what I mean? Not 1 in a row, but the first of the 10, because he cost us the league that year. So he cost us it at the start and at the end. I mean, that is fucking just so twisting the reality. He did a full rebuild, which apparently, if you pay fucking chunks,
he pledges to stop talking about Bob McBob. He'll ignore him. I don't know if it'll happen, though.
To comment, no, Chunks. You can comment for free. We enjoy your banter, mate.
Exactly, mate.
Thank you so much. Thank
what
you.
A guy. Mate. What a guy.
That narrative is spin that I just can't fathom, Phil, because I'm sure we spent all last season saying that rebuilding a team, having lost the league the year before, was nigh on impossible. That's what we've been told. Oh, that was impossible for Andrew. He's still there. Well, you can't have your cake and fucking eat it. That's the same arseholes that are saying Neil Lennon cost us the 10 either side of it because he didn't win that league season in his first full season. He brought in about 15 players, the same as Ange did.
He did.
And we're the opposition we were against was far harder. Walter Smith was the manager, for fuck's sake. Like, get real. Like, see at that, I actually think that was such an exciting season because you knew their powers were on the wane. But that Rangers team has won, what, 3 in a row? 4 in a row?
3. This would be the 3rd in a row. When they win the season, that'd be the 3rd in a row.
This is the 3rd in a row with their best manager of all time in charge. Or one of it. Not that Wallace guy, whatever his name was. But I think Walter Smith's up there anyway. And Lennon's in his first ever season of management. But he cost us that league title. Are you what?
No.
That team was brilliant to watch, up for every single game. And he, I think, transformed careers of guys that, who knows where George or Samaras is going at the end of that Mowbray stroke, obviously Lennon as caretaker season. You're right, Phil, to bring that up. But he made wise signings as well. And that, I think, goes under the radar. I also happen to think, as a player, I would love to know what his record is in the fixture. Because it'll be fucking impressive. Right? And again, against far better Rangers teams than you all think Stuart Armstrong's better than him. Do you know what I mean? It's fucking insane. And folk have lost the plot over Neil Lennon for one season. And yes, it was shit. But football didn't begin in 2016. Folk need to get that in their heads as well. Especially when the guy you're targeting was so instrumental in all the years before the season that he messed it up. Do you know what I mean? And he did mess it up. And I was vocal on it at the time, and I still stand by it. But fuck me, you're so right to talk about him as iconic with his fixture, Phil. And I'm honest, I'm not wound up at all right now.
No, it's fine. Well, the thing is, one of the things that you didn't bring up there is now at the start I said that season we played them 7 times. We won the majority of the games as well. And you're saying, like, they're going, oh, you know, we cost us the league that year. We couldn't really do much more. It was a snide game against Inverness at the end of the season. They've lost it for us. But we beat them at Ibrox 2-0. We knocked them out the Scottish Cup. We are 1-0. And we beat them. And Liam, I'll come to you on this because there's a particular moment you want to talk about. This is one of the games that stands out. And the tragic bit is we beat them so convincingly that day and didn't win the league. That always, for me, in my mind, always annoys me when I look back on some of the great wins. And then it's like, but did we win the league at the end of the season? We didn't, because we deserved, on the basis of this one performance, we bloody deserved it that season. We absolutely tanked them 3-0. Chris Commons, there was another Skelper. He scored that day. He enjoyed a game against them. But Gary Hooper and David Weir had a moment, didn't they, Liam, in that game? We beat them 3-0. Hilarious meme was born.
He looked like the guy, you know, that sighting of the Bigfoot, the Sasquatch. It's like everybody's going one way. Is that iconic picture of Maradona and there's 11 guys behind the ball?
Yeah.
It was like Scott Brown going one way. Everybody would go with Scott. Was David? Was it Hooper? But David Weir was going the other way.
He's going the other way.
That brilliant meme, and people were uploading it all over the place. And
right.
No, that was a scalping. That was a
doing.
You know, he got a scalping there at that point. And I think that's one thing I like when we approach this fixture as well. Like looking back over it, when I was just doing a wee bit of my own research last night, Phil.
Okay. Nice one.
We have fun with the fixture. We've had fun over the years with this fixture. The songs we've came up with, Beach Ball Sunday was absolutely brilliant. Trying to explain that to people in Canada when you're watching in the pub and beach balls all over your soccer field.
Neil Lennon started nearly every game of that era as well. Nearly every single game that season he would have started. Like, you know, the rewriting of history is so sad because you're right. The Beach Ball Sunday thing. Remember they were having to stop the game in that fucking because we just blew up another 100 balls and just shut them on after they thought they cleared it.
Guys, what was the game when Lennon's walking off the park at Ibrox? He does the cigar celebration because it was so easy for him.
Roy Keane's game.
That was it.
1-0. And Lennon and Keane were just passing the ball to each other at one point in time. They were, though. They were both about 33, 34 they would have been. 34 years old, but they were just reading everything. And see, to be fair, I've always said I thought Barry Ferguson was a good player. I don't care what people say, right? He was a good footballer, right? And he had a wee face that you couldn't be bought with. And Samarat's kidding on, he was chucking the ball at him. And that was fucking brilliant. That was unreal. He's got the most, it's like a perfect face for like a pistol. Oh, yeah. But he was a very good player. And Kieran Lennon, I'm sure he was playing that day. Someone's going to come in and go, Barry Ferguson wasn't there then. In fact,
no, Barry Ferguson was playing that day. He was.
He was, right. Thank fuck for that.
Yep.
And it was just the fact that they were running things around them. I just had to put a name to it. But we were running, they were just with the ball. Simple passes, reading the game. Everywhere you turn, there's Roy Keane on your shoulder, or it's Neil Lennon on your shoulder. Just simple tackles. Both went off as well, without one probably dirty mark in their shorts. You know what I mean? Just never had to do a slide tackle. Just fucking so easy. I felt they really, really controlled the game that day. And of course, again, you talk about Scott Brown, and in these moments where you think you'd just be fucking yes, Lennon turns to comedy. I just think that's so interesting that's how people like how sharp that is. And you can only ever hypothetically speculate if you were in that position, because you never will. And I just wonder if my brain would be quick enough to do that, or I would just be like, yeah, fucking dancer. Instead, Lennon straight away looking at all the Rangers fans above the tunnel, who've been probably calling him every name under the sun, and have done for years.
He wasn't afraid to do a wee gesture, walk up the tunnel at Ibrox, wasn't he? Oh, he wasn't afraid. No.
And that was class. That was class. And by the way, Roy Keane that day just showed that had he been like, if he had 2 working hips, he would have been in 18 months for us. Unbelievable.
Oh, brilliant.
And he obviously needed the extra, motivation, probably the extra painkiller for that game, painkiller injection. But he looked fit that day. I mean, he was fit. There was a wee bit of memory going, fucking trust me, I can play. Like, trust me, I'm pretty good at this game. It's just a shame that he was in too much agony. But that was a wee insight, and I'm glad he's got that game, if you know what I mean. I think that was really important for Keane. But back to Lennon again. Lennon synonymous with that game as well, because it was him and Keane boss in the midfield. But don't tell the
youngins that.
Don't tell Celtic Twitter that, man. They'll fucking have you.
I know. Well, the thing is, we're talking about a good scalping of them. We'll physically scalp them, because obviously he's synonymous with the shame game, they called it, because literally after the game, him and Mr. McCoist had a wee bit of fisticuffs over, we still don't officially know what it was, but yeah, obviously at full time in the Scottish Cup replay, the one when Mark Wilson killed Sasa Papic with the ball, absolutely KO'd him. Then scored the goal at full time. Obviously, Neil Lennon and Ali McCoist had a little word, and then a Rami broke out after it. But again, that was just Neil Lennon's character. But it was such an overreaction from the government, the authorities, and stuff like that. It's like we've seen plenty. I mean, last week we were talking about Boric and saying if there was ever a stramash after a Celtic Rangers game, you could bet Boric was right in there. So there's one where he told Davy Weir by the neck. And it's like, well, nothing ever came after that. A big fight after the game. There was a one we beat them when Vennegoor Hesselink scored in the last minute, and Gary Caldwell and somebody was scrapping. And it's like, again, there was no big outcry from the government about, banning people and shame games and stuff like that. But this one, for some reason, they really homed in on it. And it was like, what's that all about? And so, but that is, again, part of Neil Lennon's character. I just fired them up even more. And again, just showed how much, he fucking hated them so much. Had such a resentment. And that team that he built, I think they had a lot of that as well, where they just like, they got it. We've talked about that Lennon era team. They were the last sort of, the dying breed. Because nowadays, every footballer wants to be mollycoddled. They want a young pop to put their arm around them and be their best mate. But Lenny had a team there where it was guys that could take a right good, rocking, and they could react to it. Guys like Joe Ledley. Say Chris Commons came in. I know Commons has soured his relationship with the club since then, but he was unbelievable in that era as well against Rangers. Pretty much every game he played. Phenomenal player. Gary Hooper. They were terrorised by Gary Hooper at times. The performance. And the one we mentioned about the 3-0 game where Davy Weir is running in all directions. Emilio Izagiri running up that left wing that day. Fucking tremendous. That's Celtic squad in general. I say in my era, going to Celtic Park as a older, that's one of the best eras for like games against Rangers. Just like the needle that was in the air, like you just
Oh,
felt
fuck, aye.
like there was real tension in the air when you played them. Like, you know, 'cause it kind of cooled a wee bit at times, depending on who their manager might have been. Like when Le Guin was their manager, it seemed to, because he isn't one of them, you know, Kashinya and stuff like that, outsiders to it. But when they had Walter Smith as their manager, then later on, because we've got Neil Lennon as our manager, it just bleeds down into the players, like the fucking hatred in the air and the needle. And it was a hell of an era. And I don't know if you remember this one. In his second spell as manager, when we beat them at Ibrox, and Edouard and Johnny Hayes scored. Earlier on, Liam, you said something about the way the press have been reporting about Mickey Beale's undefeated Rangers. I don't use remember this, but that season, the way that one started, both Celtic and Rangers won the first 6 or 7 games of the season. Then they were playing each other at Ibrox. Do you remember Neil Lennon's press conference after that game?
No.
He didn't miss them, I'll tell you that much, because he made it very clear to all the gathered press about all you've talked about in the run-up to this is Steven Gerrard's team this, Gerrard that, Rangers this, Rangers that. Both teams went in with the exact same record. They'd won the same number of games as us. But it was all Gerrard this, they're the favourites and all that. And he, one of those ones where you just listen to him talking and you're like, good on you, Neil. You know, he made sure he went to that press conference and didn't miss any of them at all. Just stuck it to them like, you know, he gave us no credit coming here at all today. And they won that game on a canter that day. We were fucking excellent in that match.
You're right.
Excellent, William. Welcome aboard, mate.
Nice one, William. Appreciate that. It's really kind. Nice
massively.
one.
Massively.
I've
seen a few good comments going up, like some suggestions. So because we're coming up to the hour mark, this is almost at an hour already, guys. Put the musical interlude in there. When we come back, we'll be talking about a few more. There's a few in the comments that I've seen that have came up that I think we need to bring up. Just they fall into that category of being able to antagonize them as well, just getting under their skin. There was a few good ones I've seen suggested. So we'll do a wee musical interlude. When we come back, we'll continue on talking about some good old scalpings, and you'll be back in a couple of minutes, guys.
No,
some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.
Appropriate I ended that just at the round goal against Jeff. Yeah, I knew what I was doing there when that one came up.
I tell you what, Liam, you better be thinking about this trivia as well. I didn't even go for a P on the break. I didn't go for a P. Racking my brains. Fuck.
I think I'll get to them. I'll wait to the end.
Aye, that's fine.
No worries, guys. Right, well, we'll continue on then. So we'll bring it a bit forward because we've concentrated mostly on the sort of 2000s, early 2010s. Let's bring it up to more recent times, in particular an era that you mentioned earlier on, Russell, because obviously under Brendan Rodgers, we had a lot of success under them. I put Moussa Dembele on the thumbnail. Obviously, we'll get to him in a minute, but there's another guy from that era who did something that I don't think many Celtic players can say that they did in a season against Rangers. Every game he played against them in the 2017-18 season, he scored. He played 5 times against them and scored, and the man in question isn't even a forward. It's Tom Rogic, a midfielder. Not only did he score against them in every game that season that he played, he also broke one of the players' ankles when he scored one of his goals as well. Was it David Bates? Was it some Bates or something?
McCrory, I think it's McCrory.
Ross McCrory, one of the two anyway. As he bends one in magnificently at Ibrox at the Copeland Road end, he also cripples one of the Rangers defenders at the same time. I mean, that's a double scalp, and that's double points.
And
ruthlessly
just runs away companies here at the Rangers fans. Check on him once. Love it.
But yeah, that season we beat them 2-0 at Ibrox. The first meeting he scored and Griffiths scored. The second game he didn't play, but they got a 0-0 draw at Celtic Park. The third meeting was the 3-2 game where he scores and we end up winning 3-2, the one when Edouard scores the winner. We beat them 4-0 in the Scottish Cup. He scored in that game as well. And then we beat them 5-0 a week later to win the league, and he scored in that game as well. So I don't think there's many Celtic players who can say they did that in a season. 5 fixtures he played against them. He scored in every one of them.
That's fucking incredible.
Brilliant. That is a scalper, by the way. That really is. And it goes kind of under the radar because it's the same era as Edouard and Dembele were at Celtic, and they had their own streak against Rangers, scalping them. But that Tom Rogic season in particular, so he's a midfielder as well. He's not even a forward, but I kept on coming up. Again, big game player like Alan Thompson, just stepped up and knew what it meant to fucking put them in their place. And yeah, even breaks one of their ankles along the way, Liam, just for a good measure.
Phil, can I let me throw a scalper in there?
Go for it.
It's done always well against him. Mcginlay'S.
That is one. Yes, I saw his name in the comments. I was like, we need to get him mentioned. We need
because he had a scalper quality about him where he wasn't always scoring the goals. I mean, he did score. I remember he scored an absolute beauty. I think his last game against him. He played one
of his last games. No, I think he still do a couple more seasons. But I know the goal, the one at Ibrox, the 5-1
game.
Yep. Aye, it was absolute peach.
Mental.
And you'll never forget as well. That's what I said about like some of the things you remember about this fixture. Grabbing the Copper's hat. Like
too good.
Iconic, those images. Who does that?
Oh, no.
He had a bit of madness about how much I really
like. A beach ball, a bus beach ball as well that he put on his head in one of the games that season.
Great memory, Phil. Great memory. Yeah. And even that goal you're talking about, remember he actually does a Ravanelli as well.
Right.
He does it, and then he's doing a mad dance up at the away fan. It was class. I think he's one of the main responsible for us having the ticket allocation reduction. Because they can't handle him. He's getting more and more leery every time he comes here. Fuck it, drop the numbers.
He got a bit comfortable there, didn't he?
Apparently, Colin Brown Warrior Moussa started his career as a striker. I did not know that. That's interesting if he did.
How do you know that, Brown?
Fair play, man. He was partial a wee goal from defence from time to time.
Remember, he pulls his shots out. He looked at Ryan Kent and he pulls his shots out. Do you remember that, Liam?
I remember that.
He's looking at Kent and he pulls his shots out the elastic in the waistband. It looks in there. Again, how? I mean, I'm watching it from the comfort of my own home on a telly most of the time. And I'm not in the mood for comedy. I'm not thinking about, I'll send something sharp and, witty just now. How are they coming up with this on the pitch? That takes a different... I like to think I can think on the spot, but that's like another level to me. They could be stand-up comedians, no bother, these sort of with mindsets like that. If you've got the ability to think that sharply, that tells me you must be on the money a lot of the time and phased by fuck all. Because I don't even know how you think of that. Do you know what I mean?
Confidence.
Confidence,
And I think that's what he brought to that team as well. I wish we'd have brought him back as a coach or something like that. He seemed to me the ultimate Celtic player, and John Kennedy could see that. I'm sure Mcginlay'S could.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him back at Celtic in some sort of capacity.
I can see it as
if Scott Brown came in like Lennon did, right? Yep. See if it was that. I remember Lennon just got the old band back together, coaches.
No spotlight, please.
That was the scenario that came in my head when you said that, Liam. I was like, what scenario could we see Mikael Lustig back in? The first thought was
he's the
Bob
Mjällby.
Brown's manager, isn't it?
He's got Brown's manager. Lustig is the Mjällby. Who else was the Thompson? Who would that be in Bruni's team?
Oh, it'd be that guy. Bring one in, some idiot for Aberdeen. Johnny Hayes. Johnny Hayes.
Definitely.
Johnny Hayes would be his Gary Pardue, or what we call him. Was it Gary? The guy was
Gary
here.
Parker. Gary Parker, wasn't it? Aye.
It would be his Johnny Hayes. Johnny Hayes would be that for him.
Johnny. Yeah, do you remember, just very quickly, do you know, like, when Gary Parker got the job?
That's right, aye. Right.
He got the phone call. He was just like, he was out on a job. It's like, you fucking where? And he's like, you're coming to Celtic.
Actually, let me check how much green paint I've got.
Blue Warrior with a suggestion, by the way. There's a bad scenario. Griffiths would be Bruni's number 2.
Pretty fuck.
Brought his measuring tape.
God. God almighty. But no, listen, one of the things I remember about the police hat goal in particular, when he's celebrating, he puts the copper hat on. That's James Forrest's goal that day. And one of the things that I love is obviously after Forrest's goal, Morelos was a sub that day, and he's on the sideline, like warming up, and he's got that typical Morelos sourpuss face that he's got, raging that they've just succeeded. And the way James Forrest just runs by him celebrating, and it's like the contrast between the two faces. Forrest absolutely loving life, his first ever goal against them. Morelos just typically raging. And that is, of course, the game that Morelos came on as a sub, and all of Celtic Park sarcastically cheered them onto the pitch. There was that one as well. That was that game, the 5-0.
I don't think we've ever had a player that's had that.
Halliday at that time got it as well. He was the us. Us, right? I suppose.
We've
actually
never had a player that's had that. No, that I can think of.
No, definitely not. No.
Sarcastically cheered Celtic player.
Apparently about a story from before my time, but supposedly Tony Cascarino got sarcastically applauded on by Rangers fans at Ibrox and then scored a few minutes later. Nigel Spackman went to play a back pass and completely missed it, and Tony Cascarino nicked in there, and we got a 1-1 draw that day. Some of the older folk in the chat that will remember it will be able to tell us that one, but I didn't really get into football till the mid-90s, but it was like 91, 92. Apparently that happened. Cascarino got sarcastically applauded on at Ibrox and scored a goal just a few minutes later. Salvaged as a draw that day. So that's an interesting story about Tony Cascarino. I learned that one when we did the early 90s episode. We did the Elvin Bustalgia way back at the start of the season, looking at some of the names that played for us during that era. Cascarino, he did score a goal at Ibrox, so that is something on his CV, I suppose. But he's definitely not a scalper. But Lustig, he definitely was. He knew how to antagonise him. He was that type of scalper. And I say the goal at Ibrox, the 5-1 game, you couple it with the Rangers TV commentary as well. As Tom Millie's like, well, I suggest you'll enjoy that one tonight. He was absolutely fuming as usual. But brilliant one. And two other players I think we can probably group them together from that era has to be, and we've done actually a show on them. We've done a versus show. Dembele and Edouard, who in their own right both terrorised Rangers in different ways. One thing that we didn't actually mention when we did the versus show that I think could have helped Edouard a wee bit with the votes is the teams that Edouard was playing against when it came to Rangers was that a bit stronger than the one that Dembele came up against. But Dembele with the perfect hat-trick on his first game against them.
Panenka penalties, a flick through the legs. Brilliant. And to have that in your repertoire against them is fucking unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? That goal, that flick was the winner. The perfect hat-trick was where his first start for Celtic. The Panenka penalties in a cup semi-final. These are all just like, it's like he's taking the pish. That lob at Ibrox as well. What's the goalie doing, Tam? The greatest bit of Rangers TV commentary. Moussa's responsible for it.
He is.
So
he is, I
think he's see, for me, he's big time. That's what I like about Moussa. He's fucking big time. He's like, put 100,000 in there. I want 100,000 watching me go. And he'll be like a peacock. Do you know what I mean? Just strut about and do his thing. I think the bigger the occasion, the more he thrived. And he's a total scalper, man.
Yeah. Oh, he is. And I think, Liam, the one that stands out for me, and and as well as Russell just listed off a whole bunch of stuff he done against them, but it's the one in the New Year game at Ibrox. We beat them 2-1, and
The
there's
hardest shot of all time.
Oh, a net buster of epic proportions. That one.
That's the loudest I've ever heard a net get hit.
Oh, he made sure there was no missing that.
But genuinely, I know I'm biased, but I've never heard that noise from a net when it's like that is. Yes, talking about a thunder bastard. He's done. It was like Alan Thompson's shot, but for 4 yards.
Aye. Again, he was making sure there was no mistake. It's like, I'm making sure I hit the back of the net here, even I'm only 4 yards out or whatever. The control for the corner, and just with his left foot, I think it was his weaker foot, just lashes it in the top corner. But Liam, do you remember the last few minutes of that game? I'm sure the Rangers players certainly do, where I believe it's him and Patrick Roberts are out in the corner flag, and they just keep it out there where Roberts takes a short corner. Dembele just makes himself big just by putting the arms out a wee bit, and they can't get the ball off him. They're just literally bouncing off him, trying to get the ball, and he's just like, nah, you're not taking it. We just held the ball out in the corner for about 3-4 minutes just to kill time at the end of the game. That's absolutely toying with him, isn't it, Liam?
Aye, absolutely. I hold Dembele. When we did that Bustalgia with Dembele and Edouard, you could see how Dembele came out in front. You know, it was those little things like that, the way he was shielding the ball. You know, the other one as well, just going back to Scott Brown a wee bit. That one point where, was it Dembele that scored the goal where Scott Brown passed for his own half, and he knew he was getting clattered.
It's that one. So what's the goalie doing?
That's another
thing that makes Scott Brown a scalper as well. The two of them hooking up in that goal.
What's that pass, Liam?
Scott Brown knew he was getting battered. He knew he was.
What's that pass?
He made sure he got the pass off. And you know, I actually thought they were going to call it for a foul because it was like he really scudded. Like he took the hit, you know. And Dembele just put that one away as well, you know.
Brilliant. Well, but that pass by Brown, you're so right, because it's so underrated. Folks just think he's hoofed that up the park. Watch him, because he doesn't need to get. See if he's just going to hoof it. Why would he bother getting taken out? You get taken out if it's worth something.
Aye. Well, you saw him when he went down.
You ride the foul. Do you know what I mean? Instead,
when he went down, he wasn't that shock and surprise that I've been tackled. He was looking to see where the ball was going, if it had gone to the right thing. He just got it off his toe as this guy went through him. And
it was Candias that tackled him, wasn't it?
Was it?
Because I'm thinking that's the same game when Kieran Tierney absolutely does a typical Kieran Tierney slide tackle where he wins the ball, but he makes sure that he gets the man as well. And he does the sort of Conor McGregor walk away from him just to swagger. And there's like the picture of like Candias lying on the ground, like absolutely in agony, and Tierney just walking away from him, just like, no fucks to give me, because nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares, Candias.
That was Scott Brown setting the tone, you know, and Tierney as well is another one. Played really well against them all the time. I remember him having a bad game. I think if he'd have stayed longer, he'd be dominating this scalper category, you know.
Yeah.
Aye. Too bad though, you know. Aye. You know, I always like seeing them getting absolutely scudded.
I think Moussa definitely is worth being a big part of the debate, because I do think he was. You need to also take into consideration a 19-year-old doing that in a derby. Come on, it doesn't happen. It's too like a 19-year-old. I can't think of any other. Not in my generation. I you know, forgive my ignorance, but a 19-year-old scoring a perfect hat trick. 19. What the fuck? Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
I think he turned 20 about a week later, don't get me wrong, but he was 19, I'm sure, in that game. And he, you know, a perfect hat trick, you're like, that is, and he's first ever start. And that's it though, Phil. It's the walking away. Just so casually by the last thing, by the way, you're about to find out, Celtic fans, I am the man. I love folk like that, because we were panicking before that game in the absence of Lee Griffiths.
That's right, we were. Yep.
But it was like, fuck it now, we've not got Lee Griffiths, because Dembele came on, and again, he'd given us a clue, hadn't he? Because against Shakhtar Karagandhi, I think it was.
Astana,
sorry.
Yep. 90th minute penalty.
You know too much. I'd get away with that with anyone else on here. Do you know that? Folk could go, Shakhtar Karagandhi, sounds about right, boys. Say, okay, not with you on.
That was James Forrest, wasn't it? The Shakhtar Karagandhi one.
Yeah. Fuck, he's showing off now. No, Dembele's penalty though, last minute. Remember, he takes it, 2-step run up, and I think that was the first clue 19 years old. Don't let the age fool you. I'm ready to rock and roll. And I think, you look back at it and you go, he let us know already. I'll be just fine, boys. Do you know what I mean? I'll be just fine. But I was worried about that Griffiths injury, and I think that was kind of the narrative getting filled there. Without Griffiths, who'd scored 41 the year before, 42?
40 goal season. That's
Was
the
it
one
just
that
40?
many go on about. Get Griffiths fit, 40 goals a season. That was
fanciful.
We TK.
Albeit he was excellent in that first season under Rodgers as well. For what he got used in, he'd that injury. It's so funny how sliding doors moments happen. Because Dembele would have won that jersey eventually anyway.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
Griffiths at that stage, I think, starts a fixture. If he's injured. And we had a field day that day either way.
Oh, we did. And I remember the Ian Crocker commentary when he scores the second one, where he puts Senderos on his arse. He says something like, no Griffiths, no problem. And then at the end of the game, in the post-match interview, whoever it is that's interviewing says Luke Shanley or whatever from Sky. He says something to Brendan Rodgers, I think, and Rodgers did not take it very well. When he says something about Griffiths missing, and then Rodgers has to correct him a wee bit, like, no, that's okay. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember it was a bit of a steady comment.
Don't be disrespectful. I
something
remember
like that.
that.
Aye, it was not an aye.
Phil Russell, maybe you'll know. Did Beale get sent off in his last game against us? Maybe somebody in the chat will know. Did he not get sent off with John Kennedy in the last game that he played against us with Rangers?
That would be.
I remember him and John Kennedy. I remember there had been a highlight, and that was the assistant that John Kennedy was fighting with.
What
would Beale's last one be? The one
it was the one when Hollander scored against us, and Gerrard was still the manager.
Angie's first.
Yep.
I didn't know there was a ding dong.
There was a ding dong.
I remember that day. The only ding dong I remember.
There you go. Michael89 says that. You're right. Beale had to come together with Kennedy. You're right, aye.
Oh, cool. All right, good. I wonder if he's got the emotional maturity to deal with this game on Monday. Like, with all the stuff he's throwing out there, because if it goes horribly wrong, he's all of a sudden emperor's new clothes, right? He's standing there and he's vulnerable. All that stuff he talked about building, all the stuff about the style that they're going to impose on us, that he's bringing on us, all the stuff that you talked about last night, basically, when I listened to the Thursday Night Thought Forum.
You were right, by the way, Liam.
He's going to have a hard time keeping his emotions.
Well remembered.
Ryan Taylor's
that crowd at home for his first game. If it goes wrong, if it goes seriously wrong, I can see him just exploding or going into shell. One or two, but he'll come out like Joey Barton. He'll be wasted.
Do you know who's another comparison you can draw that to? What you described there? Graham Murray. Remember, we've talked about this one before, the 3-2 game, when Synonymous gets sent off, Brendan Rodgers and Chris Davis right away, giving instructions to the players. What's Graham Murray doing? Try to reel up the fans. That's the type of thing you could see happen between, with Ange. He'll be quiet, tactical and stuff like that. He'll be thinking meticulously. But I think Beale could let his emotions rule his head at times. I think that could be a downfall of his.
The best thing is, for in this whole scenario, is Mickey Beale knows he can't stop what's coming. It's about what we do. And that's got to be frustrating.
Aye.
That's got to fuck you off, because if Celtic if they do everything to the best of their ability, like we've seen at times this season, game set match. It's a game set match. And they know that. And Rangers could play very, very well. But if we play to our best, we win. No matter if they play to their best. That is the facts of the matter. That could lead to a lot of frustration. That could lead to a lot of frustration. If he goes, the boys are actually doing brilliant, and it's still fucking 3-0. Something like that, because Celtic's just...
Well, you can see players like McGregor, Alan McGregor losing the rag completely.
Oh, God, aye. Mr. Angry.
I think there's a lot on them in this game. And if I look at the players that they've got now, all of them are susceptible to mind games and that. Everyone from Kent to Morelos, I think their crowd will turn on them. See if they don't show up, all the ones that haven't signed contracts, all the ones that seem to be, messing with the club and all that, or they think that they're leaders, Lundstrom and Arfield and all them. I think if it starts going sideways, you'll see a different side to them. And I'm hoping VAR, back some of that stuff. I'm doubting it, but I remember talking to Russell Boyce one night before it was the Bobby Madden game. You and I were talking the night before, Russell, and I was so fully confident of Celtic, taking a scalp off them and all that. But then the last thing they said, that as long as we don't get celebrity referee Bobby Madden, and that's what showed up.
Yep.
And I was watching, like Tom Rogic was running through the midfield like he was towing Bassey as a caravan, and Lundstrom was just like throwing it about. I think he intimidated Hatate in that game as well. He clumped into him a really hard one, and I don't know if it was intimidated, but I think he was feeling the effects. He had a really hard kick to the ankle. And that changes your game when you can't run properly or kick a ball and you can't get in the space you want to. And so that's my thing this weekend. I think it's going to be an emotionally charged game. Yeah. And I think that's what we have to expect as well. And out of that, my scalper, I'm just throwing it out there now for this weekend. I think Hatate's building up scalper status within. Other than that game against Thompson, where he was allowed to body him a bit, watched him against Real Madrid, picking balls out of the air like the same.
He's unbelievable. As I said the other night, he's the best right back in the country, Liam.
Aye, and I think he saves it. I think like when he went to left back, but I can do this as well. And I think tomorrow, I think you're going to see him come alive. I think on Monday you're going to see him.
What about this lad that Monty likes to talk about?
What's that?
Well, I've got exclusive intel.
What?
I've got info from the inside. Right?
Are you saying that you're in the know, Russell?
I am very ITK tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
And I don't ever claim my sources tell me Steven Gerrard would be very interested in Aston Villa.
You better go back in the WhatsApp chat, put a wee green tick next to this one, Russell. You better do that.
Honestly, my Doug told me Steven Gerrard would be interested in going to Aston Villa. Who didn't know that? But anyway, our man Monty, his name is below, going about his day-to-day business, lads. And he genuinely, after all the wind-ups, and remember I told you last night, Phil, the boss writes the scripts.
Yep.
What's the chances of Monty, who has tortured Mark Kearney in the comments about Juranovic for the last 3 months, bumps in to no other than Joseph Juranovic today?
No way. Wow. Oh, my God.
Yes. And obviously, I mean, we've had the pleasure of meeting Monty, Phil. He ain't no shrinking violet. He's a legend, man, right? And Monty instantly, I'm a Celtic fan. Are you staying? Are you going? That was a wee bit up in the air. He says, you don't know, sort of thing. I mean, we all know he's going. And what about Monday? And he turned right, and Monty says pretty definitively, and with a lot of passion in his voice, Monday is ours. But that is the honest truth.
There you go.
He met him today. What is the chances of that? The one guy singing his praises all season. I just love it. I love
Brilliant.
it. Monday is ours. But said with that wee sort of bit of being sort of motivated, That's what Monty says. He says you could tell. You could fucking tell that he was there going to be up for this on Monday. Let Mickey taking the Mickey out his cell. I'm happy for him to take the Mickey out his cell, because that's what he's doing now. He's talking himself in to a Brendan Rodgers situation where you go, be careful what you wish for.
It could be.
That's
could be
one
of them. Could indeed. But yeah, I think he'll be in it right back on Monday. The Celtic have made it very, very clear, putting out some Juranovic propaganda in the last couple of days on their social media. Here's a video interview with Croatian World Cup star, making sure that we all know he's now back and he's in training. So it seemed like they were emphasising that point. So there's a bit of concern right now over the right back position. So felt to me like Celtic were very deliberately putting out there the other day, like, look who's back in training. Joseph Juranovic, he's here. So I can see him starting on Monday. I don't think we've got anything to worry about at the right back position. We're actually going to have a natural right back playing there. As good as Hatate was, I'd much rather see him in the middle of the park, because as Liam says, he's got that scalper potential at the moment, the way things are going. I suppose you could also say the same for Abada with his goal record in 2022 against them.
Oh, yes.
You know, just don't tell Borna Barisic about him because he still can't see him for some reason. The back post running in every single time. Oh, and by the way, I need to address this well because a second ago, or a few minutes ago, we were talking about the Dembele and Edouard thing. And of course, resident Rangers fan in the chat, Bob McBob, came with the usual patter that they come out with. Oh, it's all well and good doing against Clint Hill and Rob Kiernan. But listen, Edouard, I can recall him scoring goals against Connor Goldson. So what's your excuse then? Connor Goldson, the hero of Rangers, you know, the centre back, they were also delighted that he signed a new deal. Remember Russell and Edouard scoring one at Ibrox, or Connor Goldson passed it out of defence, passed it right to Mikey Johnston, slotted a nice ball into him, and as soon as Edouard was in, you knew it was coming next. And funny enough, there's a picture that's taken perfectly of just before he hits that shot, he just opens up his body, he's about to put it away, and the pictures, the fans behind the goal in the Copeland Road end, and every one of them are like that, because they know what's coming next. And of course, he runs by them all just going, sit down, sit down, tells them where to go.
Here's the thing, Phil, right? Here's the thing. So, in the second 9 in a row that Celtic won, Rangers only finished second 3 times in that 9 in a row run.
That's true, yeah.
Right? So that's where the argument comes from. Look who you're up against, you know? All this bollocks.
Yes.
When Rangers won their 9 in a row, Celtic were in that league all 9 seasons.
That's correct.
Only finished second 3 times.
Right, that's true.
So, let's just get it right. Who is it you were beating that was so good? And we didn't even have the excuse of not being in the league. We were in there the whole fucking time. We were miles away. Right. So let's stop the nonsense about that argument, you know. And if you're all the same club, you know, fucking accept it, because you were telling us how you were going for 55 that season. Don't fucking rewrite history. I can't move on with that.
Just change the narrative all the time. They always do. Now, Liam, at the start of the show, you said that you were going to tell us about a Celtic Rangers game you've been to that had a bit of a scalping. So, how about you? The floor is yours just now, mate, if you want to tell us about it.
The scalping was on the park.
Right.
Next to the game. My first Rangers Celtic game was the 1980 Scottish Cup final.
Were you on the park? Did you actually go on?
No, I was at a communion that day, and I went with my uncles, and crazy as well, with suits and that on, right? It was a first communion or something like that, and so I had to get changed, and my ma, for some reason, I don't even know where she got it, packed me a bright blue jersey with a white and red stripe in. I don't know where she even got it from. It wasn't in my case or anything like that, you know, in my drawers. So she packed that in a bag for me, so I had to put this on. And then I had a denim jacket on top of that. And it was, anyone remembers, it was about 80 degrees that day. It was massively warm in Glasgow. And so my first ever game was going to that game. Tommy Burns playing. Roy Aitken came on as just a young guy. He was filling in at the back. I mean, we talked about this. And then extra time, it was nothing. No, a great game. And then I think it was George McCluskey. Danny McGrain had a shot at goal.
Yep.
I don't think it was even going close to goal.
It wasn't going in.
George McCluskey managed to just get around it and then just slap it into the net, and then bedlam ensued. And that's when the scalping happened. It was crazy. It was wild. I'd been living in Canada at that point, and I was just back, and it was just pandemonium inside the crowd, and you know, we were all on the Celtic end and that, and we could see it all happening. I think it was funny that day. There was a US marching band like visiting Scotland, and they were at halftime entertainment, but they'd also put them in behind the goals. They were all sitting behind the goals as well. And like when the second charge came, it was like all these people came like just running near the top of them and that, and tubas and big drums and all. I must be thinking, this is their first, you know, time at Scottish football. They must be thinking, what the hell is going on here? So that's the only Rangers Celtic game I've ever been to. There was a riot, and because of that, you can't drink now, and just Mark played on the WhatsApp because of me and my like. I can't get a drink at last Friday, you know. I got judged harshly. That was my Celtic game, and then playing in Toronto, like living in Toronto as well when it's a Celtic Rangers game. It's a big thing as well. Pubs are full. You know, back in the day when there was, you know, before there was streaming services and all that. That was your outlet. That's where you went to go and watch the game. And there was a lot of times where we were in mixed pubs and that as well. And it could get just as spicy, you know, over there, you know, as it does over here when it comes to Celtic and Rangers. And there was always a thing after it as well. Like sometimes we'd be playing football right after it because of the time difference. And, you know, the amount of times that I played with Celtic teams against Rangers, you know, you'd get that happened in Scarborough and Toronto, and you get a lot of people coming out for those games. And so those rivalries, it crosses the Atlantic. And I tell you what, even you're playing like Scarborough Celtic versus Scarborough Rangers, like in the Toronto League, you get up for it as much as I imagine you would in the dressing room and that. Like, you're absolutely buzzing. When you go in the park, like the whole community comes out to watch that game because they know it's a big game and it's men playing football. And it is buzzing and it's electric. I mean, can't imagine what playing in, you know, the stadium would be like with the old Celtic. But even then, there's pressure on you to win, you know.
No, it's a rivalry that, you know, spans many different countries. Say Celtic and Rangers rivalry goes worldwide. That is up there as the for me, not just because I'm a fan of one of the teams, but when you hear some of the chat about other derbies around the world, particularly the ones in England, you're like, can't even hold the camera.
No, they're not fucking near it. I think the Boca Juniors River Plate.
I was going to say Boca and River Plate is probably the only one. That's one that's on my bucket list. Where it's like, I'd love to experience that in person, the Boca Juniors River Plate one. Although, have you seen the videos that have been doing the rounds about Boca Stadium where it's all like falling to pieces? The fans are constantly jumping up and down, and the stand is literally like rocking. It's like, I don't think I'd fancy being in that. That looks like
That's
the
madness.
The danger of it all, man. But the atmosphere there looks superb. That looks like one of the ones where that would be up there. Remember there was one they had to play at the Bernabeu in Madrid because there was a riot at the one in, I'd say it was at the equivalent to the Champions League final in South America, and River Plate and Boca Juniors got to the final in like 2017 or something. It was within the last like 6 or 7 years, and it's a two-legged thing, and the second leg got postponed because there was rioting outside the stadium, and they had to play at a neutral venue, and they brought it to the Bernabeu in Madrid.
That's class.
My God.
That is pretty big though, because you've got to admit, like, that was a sellout at the Bernabeu as well.
It was, yep. Oh yeah, it was indeed. It shows you that one.
That's pretty big.
Huge.
That's pretty big. You know, maybe where there's a wee bit of, you know, because it's us, but there's nothing wrong with that. When are we talking about, Henrik?
Well, you've just went to say it, because I was about to say, obviously we're coming up to an hour and a half, so for the last sort of half hour of the show, I've got like a triple threat, so to say, that we can talk about, three that we can group together. The main event, essentially, of the Skelpers, I would say, is these three. Sutton, Hartson and Larsson. They are the three together during that era for different reasons, different games. They all had their moments against them. But, man, like, Larsson, I say, where do we even start? The 6-2 game, probably a good place to start, but even scored against them before the 6-2 game in other matches. But that's the one that will always be remembered, the chip over Stefan Klos, nutmegs Bert Konterman, in on goal, lifts it over Klos, and as Ian Crock said, that is sensational.
The 5-1 for me was before that, where he scored 2, and Wubo obviously had scored 2, but that was bizarre. Like, that just, even in the 97-98 title winning season, we never did that to Rangers. I hadn't ever done that to them in my lifetime. Like, fucking royally pumped them. Never had we done that. Remember Larsson going away doing the celebration with the two hands, V for victory. Like that. It was so class. And he was on fire that day. And again, I think people forget how good he was in the air.
Oh God, aye.
Fucking Larsson in the air, man. What height do you think Henrik was? 5'10"? 5'11"?
I thought he was shorter than that. I thought he was maybe like 5'8".
No, I'm 5'8". Fuck me. Okay. No, he's got to be taller than me. Fucking hell.
See, I didn't have the joy of seeing him in person too many times. That was long before I got any season ticket. I'd been to a few games during the O'Neill era and saw him, but not enough times to get an idea of how tall he was. But obviously his striking partners were all significantly taller than him, so maybe that gave a perspective.
I'm going to say 5'10", but you think of his spring. And you remember there was a trait, and it's so funny Henrik ended up picking it up, because I remember being obsessed with a guy called Klinsmann, right? When he joined Spurs first time round. This is when I'm just first ever watching football. As I say, 94 World Cup. That's where it all began. Watch the old Bustalgias, you'll find out, right? And the guy Klinsmann, who I've decided he's the man because of his celebration at Spurs, I think that day, did the dive. And
you've got a bit of Klinsmann hairstyle going on as well.
And because he did that, I was like, he's the fucking man. Anyway, Dad would used to say to me, do you know what's fucking amazing about Jurgen Klinsmann? He's got, I can still remember him saying it. Like, I remember the conversation. Again, I'm like, Dad, I don't understand what you're on about. I'm 7. Do you know what I mean? I'm not your mate down the pub, which he seemed to think I was a lot of the time. But he's hanging in the air. It's a skill. I went, what do you mean he's hanging there? He jumps, and for whatever reason, he doesn't land as quickly as someone else. And I'm like, how did you do that? Like, watch how many goals Henrik Larsson has hung in the air. It is a fact. It exists. It's a thing. But I don't. Remember we were talking last Friday about having it, and you walk in a room and no one knows what it is. You've just got it. What the fuck does hanging in the air mean? But Henrik could hang. He got a big leap, and he just seemed to stay that 0.5 of a second, that second, in the same height of the ground, instead of just going instantly straight back down. It's fucking bizarre. Totally bizarre. And an amazing header of the ball.
Oh, for sure. I mean, obviously we see Cristiano Ronaldo's perfected that over the years. He does that weird hanging in the air thing, and you're like, how? You can't explain it. But Ronaldo's also significantly taller than Larsson as well, but it's still phenomenal to see. But yeah, I remember Larsson doing that many times. But I'll tell you a goal against him that I don't feel gets as much praise, because obviously the 6-2 game one does get the praise. It's a free draw that we played with them at Celtic Park.
Oh, yes.
He goes back to goal. The ball comes across the ground from Didier Agat. It's a low cross. So he goes back to that. I think it's Craig Moore or Amaruso are like really close to him at his back. So he's got them. Takes one touch and on the swivel turns and volleys it with his left foot right in the top corner. It's an amazing goal, but I think it's because it's a game that we didn't win. Ultimately, it kind of gets a bit forgotten about, but I fucking love the technique in that goal. Love it so much.
He used the studs to control it on his right foot, and then his left foot, meant to be his weak foot, spins, having trapped the ball, made the ball sort of bounce off the deck, and then it's still got to get the hip up. He's got to get his hip high to get that, to be able to control that volley. He's not a problem. Henrik at this point must have been 31, 32. Oh, it is.
2002. It was.
Was it 2000? Oh, that's
2002, 2003 season. So it was the first half of that season. So it was September.
31, 32.
Okay.
I was born the 20th of September, so
there you go.
There you go, 31. But yeah, I mean, he was getting better, and he was also one of these people, I think, whose reputation, I think he enjoyed having. See, the more that reputation was growing, you've got to watch what Larsson was doing. He used to do mad things, even in these games.
Warrior was vaccinated. He's coming with science here, guys. Science.
Of course he knows that. But see what Henrik used to do, not just in Celtic Rangers games, we used to notice it. See when the goalie had the ball at their feet, he would run in just from one angle. He basically forced the keeper's hand for him to have to pass it out on his left peg. He never just ran straight to close. He'd always come into this mad angle, and I thought, well, you're giving them like that option. Whereas if you're kind of going like that, you could be, what way are you going to go? I'm going to close down your man. Larsson just went, you're going to need to go on your left foot. He would always curve his run when the keeper. And I started thinking, that is fucking clever. That is clever, because there's a likelihood of a mistake there. The reality, if you're going straight at them, is either option they take, they're going to be passing with their strong foot, and you're not going to do much. You might put them under a tiny medium of pressure, but it's not going to be a lot. But if you're just forcing their hand, he would do this mad bent run to close it down. Now, it was always to put the goalie on their left foot. And I thought, he just rehangs at that, man. That's fucking clever, that is, eh?
That's just so far ahead of the game, just so he would think differently from everybody else on the park. The guy, it's not even just with the green tinted glasses, because he played for us. Like, people outside of Scotland have got to understand, this guy could have played at any team at that point in time. I mean, look, so 2001, so Larsson, under the Neil, that 53 goal season, which first of all in its own right is incredible, but of course you'll get your detractors who'll be like, it's in Scotland and that, right? So I was looking at it, right, who was the Champions League winners that season? It was Bayern Munich. Would Henrik Larsson have gotten that Bayern Munich team? Yes, he would have. That's not hyperbole to say that. That season when he scored the 53 goals, he could have gotten that Bayern Munich side, no problem at all. I think he would have fitted in there quite easily, and they're deemed the best team in the continent at that point. So it's like, well, You know, he would easily have got in there. So people have got to understand how good this guy was, and a lot of people from outside of the Scottish football bubble they just don't get it. It's like, this guy, man, he's so far ahead. You know, talk about Zlatan. Zlatan says Larsson taught him so many things. Zlatan saying that. Mr. Humble himself, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, you never, you know, he always talks about.
I've read his book. I've read his book, Zlatan's book, and he says, I got to play up front with a guy that the Swedes affectionately call Henke, but I only knew him as God.
Oh, there you go then.
I've read the book. Fucking dig out the book if anyone doesn't believe me. That's how highly he rated him. I always talk about Henrik. Another book that I read was Alex Ferguson's last book. I'd read his first two. I'd done a fucking school piece on one of them, and then he had a second one, I'm sure. And then remember he released a white book called Leading once he'd retired from Man United. You remember that?
Aye.
And it was like sort of gold font. And Larsson, who he worked with for 3 months, is mentioned twice in that book. 2 different chapters. Yeah. It's fucking mental. Mental. And because each chapter is about management, right? So Ferguson's talking about different ones, like obviously being a good coach, being a good trainer, influencing, motivating, all these different sort of things. I don't know, I can't remember the name of any of the chapters. But he's talking about like fucking Henry. He goes, the only player he'd ever seen be applauded in by Scholesy, Giggs, Rio. Yeah. He goes, we beat Middlesbrough. We should be beating Middlesbrough. We beat them 1-0, but we're down to 10 men for 75 minutes. Just stuck Henrik in centre midfield at 35 years old because he knew he was that good. He'd seen enough. Yeah. In training, he went, he's that fucking good. Just fucking fire him there. You play, just drop Henrik in. And he says, Henrik Larsson absolutely owned it. I don't know if you remember a couple of other old firm goals, or we'll go back to what I suppose, stay on peace. 15 goals in 30 games, I'm sure it is, because I'm weird at numbers. So 1 and 2, not bad. Right? That's not bad. When you consider 97-98, we won the league in the last day. 98-99, he was fucking, we lost the league under Weinglass by a country mile, but we got the 5-1 win, so we would have got a couple of goals. Yeah. 99-2000, he missed through injury.
Yeah, he missed all of them through injury.
So under O'Neill, I think he's probably got 12, if not 13 of those 15 goals. In 4 years. That's okay. I think he's doing okay. And that 97-98 season, remember he played, more as an attacking midfielder, not a striker.
That's right.
He wasn't out and out striker that he finished up being for us.
Darren Jackson started the season as the sort of main striker with him just playing off of him. Then it was Bratt back for the sort of second half of the season.
But here's a couple of the goals you'll have forgotten. So that 5-1 win, that's the first dink. Colin Hendry's trying to close him down. He just thinks it about that height, but it's still a dink, right?
Yep.
I'm going to give you another one. League Cup semi-final, Hampden at midweek at night.
Oh, yes.
On the volley, lofts the ball about 20 yards in the air and then catches it on the line just to tap it in. And picks up the ball and just runs away with his tongue out. And you're like, he's taking the fucking piss.
For extra bonus points, did he put Bob Malcolm on his arse in that goal as well? I'm pretty sure there's a Rangers player falls over.
That's right, he's just stronger than him though. He's just fitter, he's stronger. That's it. But that's another dink for you that people will forget, to be on the volley, knocking it 20 yards in the air, you know what I mean, over Stefan Klos, a Champions League winning goalkeeper. We're not talking about fucking Alan McGregor here, right? Yep. And then fend off a defender, and as it's landed, just cushion a wee tap-in volley on the line. That's swagger. That is swagger, is it not?
That is pure bravado, and he had it. We've said it before. We were talking at the start of the show when I mentioned last. I said we've done so many episodes of Bustalgia where he seems to be a central figure because we've done all the Martin O'Neill leader, the amount of World Cups and Euros ones that we've done from the early 2000s where he is synonymous in these tournaments because he's always got a moment that we can talk about or a goal, something. But the guy was just you run out of words to describe him. Like, honestly, I mean, I'm not surprised if we get to the end of this season and then my sort of last few episodes of Bustalgia will be like a 3-part Henrik Larsson special or something. That's how good he is. We could easily do that. Easily. Because he's different, a different breed unbelievable. The best talent I think we'll ever see.
And by the way, booted up and down in this fixture as well by Craig Moore. I thought him and Amorusso's battles, to me, were more in the mind. Craig Moore was nowhere near it, right? And I'm not saying Amoruso was amazing, but I think he could play a wee bit. Craig Moore was shite, right? He was horse shite. He was just a fucking brute. And the amount of times you've seen Henrik, both feet in the air, landing on his arse for attack, challenge from behind, that in the modern day, he just can't do. It's not just like it's a foul, it's going to VAR in case potentially red. Henrik used to ride these tackles all the time. You know, honestly, like, this is going to be your difference if we bring it back to the current day, I should say. This is where Kyogo's going to need to get lively.
Yeah, he is.
And it's all good checking in on every player who's running about with an injury. It's all good to doing these wee late challenges and then apologising for them. But see, when the going's got tough against Rangers, he's got going. It cannot be denied. He doesn't like it when he's actually getting rough into it. And he's going to need to find something that Henrik had in abundance, just never showed aggression doing it. And Kyogo doesn't need to change his personality. He doesn't need to change it. It's just going, is that fucking right? We'll see the next time. Watch what I do with the ball. Because I'll predict that you're going to do that. And I'm going to give you the biggest black eye. And that's because the ball's going to be in the fucking net. And that's what Henrik did. He rode tackles that you just wouldn't see in the game today. All the time. I mean, he was, honestly. So they're going to get benefits on Sunday. And this isn't me paranoid on Monday, sorry. This isn't me paranoid. VAR's the only team since VAR came in that haven't given away a penalty. It's just no coincidence. Right? It's bullshit. Right? We all know it is. And I'm bored of talking about it. But we know we've beaten in there a guy who drinks in Rangers pubs. We know the story here, right? They're going to feel confident to make these sort of challenges. Can Kyogo handle it? And that is where you go from Kyogo levels to greatness. If he wants to become a Celtic great, which I think he's got his eye on becoming, I think he loves the club. I don't think Kyogo's someone who'll ever angle for a move away. I think we've got him at the right age, same age as, funnily enough, Henrik joined. 26 approaching 27. He's now 27 approaching 28. And now you're looking at it going, we're going to get your peak years, mate, but are you going to still be number one? Because the only way you're going to get better is if you start realising this league's old school. There's a bit of stuff, and by the way, there's an element of it that's just ridiculous. There's an element of it that's fucking out of order. But deal with it. You're just going to need to deal with it. So this is the big test Monday for Kyogo, and he should be taking lease at Henrik Larsson's book.
He should be.
How to handle this shite. I went a bit of a rant again there, but you know what
I mean. No, that's fine.
Plenty of people I've been sort of keeping an eye on the chat. Plenty of people in the chat were responding to that as well. Steve made a comment earlier about, like Kyogo not being like Morelos, where he scores against everybody except Rangers. So getting him to score on Monday, getting a big game out of him. When I see the comparison to Larsson, goal-wise, is Larsson had that unique way of driving in on the keeper, and then he would start bending. He would start turning to his left, and he'd take the keeper that way, and then he'd find these impossible angles to slide the ball. You're thinking, oh no, he's went too far. He can't do that. And Larsson would find it. He would have the size of a shoebox to hit that ball into while it was moving. I think Kyogo's got that in his locker. Can he hang in the air? Aye, but I don't know if he can do it when he's getting thuggied about. And that's going to happen. And we've already seen him. I mean, when Lundstrom came into him in that last game, he just collapsed. And that put him out for a bit. And
he's got to expect it. He's got to be feeling that is what he's got to go in there, safe in the knowledge. I'm going to get a wee bit today. And it doesn't matter.
You notice he's been playing with a wee bit more dig as well. And so I think he frustrates players as well, because when he does his pressing and he comes in and he slows up. He leaves a wee bit on them. Lately, and I think
it's quite snide how he does it. I think it's snide. I think there's a bit element of snidiness when he's doing it, because I'm like, he's leaving it in, and then it's like, oh, I'm really sorry, mate, and I'm like, Kyogo, you've left your boot in there, but it's a shite bag way. See, when it's a 50-50, show me you can win a couple of them. That'll be the difference. Show me you can win a couple of them, big boy, and you're not getting carried off after 2 minutes again. You know.
Well, I mean, I hope that's it. I don't
it.
think we bought Kyogo for 50-50s, right? I mean,
oh, I agree with that. But
you know what I mean? But I do worry about his resilience as far as like staying on the pitch as well. You know, like you're always looking at you might have to sub him at some point because you know he is a bit of a target with them as well. And you know,
weakness in him.
SPFL.
Weakness in him.
Our first hit is free, right? You get a free first hit on Kyogo or any of the players. And as you've seen with Hatate in that last game, if you hit them in the right spot, you might not get 100% from them. They'll deteriorate as the game goes down.
Yeah.
You get in there and hit them on the ankles and stuff first. And, you know, you saw it when we talked about that a couple of weeks ago, Phil and I, when Edson Edouard came back against in that cup final and the Goldson or something just right through the back of him. And absolutely nothing. We got a kick for it, which we scored, but my God.
But they thought they were saying welcome to the game.
Yeah.
But the reality was that was how nervy he made them.
Aye.
And
that was
Eddie's not even someone that we're regarding in the same. We're not even thinking he can hold a torch to the likes of Henrik and all that. And yet he came on, and even by then, but I think obviously it was 92% Dembele, Phil. You know it better than it, or whatever it was. Let's be honest. I you know. Eddie came on that day and he put the fear of God. Oh, he wasn't meant to be here. He wasn't meant to be here. He wasn't meant to be fit. And that is when that game changed. And people talk about the offside goal. You know, Mikey Johnson misses an absolute sitter to have made that 2-0. And it was all the tactic of, this is all I can get for Eddie, so this is when I'm going to bring him on. And he changed that game. And they fucking know it.
He did. There's a reason why they stuck that tackle on him. They were afraid of him. They wanted to try and rough him up to put him off the game, but no, he relished it in the end. And speaking of which, Liam, the other twos that we're talking about Larsson there, the other two in that little trio that I had there that relished a bit of physicality. Russell mentioned Amoruso. We spoke about it when we did the Chris Sutton episode. Chris Sutton actually relished his battles with Amoruso. He properly was salivating over the idea of getting into this guy and getting in about him and, you know, trying to rough him up a wee bit because he just saw him and thought, he's not much. He's nothing to fear at all. You know, this guy thinks he's the cock of the walk and he just roughed him up all the time. Thought about a minute into his debut against him and he scored Chris Sutton, and he didn't look back after that. But him and Hartson, and I don't know if maybe with the Hartson one in particular, he had a point to prove. We talked last week about how Boric was the type of guy that needed a point to prove and he would relish on it. With Hartson missing out on the chance to join them a year before he joined us due to the failed medical, it always felt like when Hartson did go up against him, he made sure, you know, you fucking missed out on this, you know, and he fucking put them at the sword every time. But they two together, and even after Larsson left, they still terrorised him as well and had because I thought, wow, Sutton and Hartson together, I don't know if this can work, but there was a few games in that 04-05 season where the two of them put Rangers to the sword, wasn't it, Liam?
Sutton got it as well. You know, even in his interviews, everything about Sutton just got the fixture. He wanted a big game when he came up to Scotland, and that was his big game. And he decided he was going to elevate everything around him so that would stay a big game. And I think his performances show that. You know, I think as well as like him pinpointing players like Amoruso. It's okay bullying. You know, you hear about him talking about guys like how much you make in a week and maybe you can come and wash my car on the weekends and all that. But there he's up against Amoruso, right? Yeah. Italian defender, you know, and just everything about Amoruso just looks like the opposite of Chris Sutton, you know?
Yep.
You know, it's like, what was like, it was hello, we are the Bailey's boys. Remember he came out in a daily record type thing when I was addicted to the Baileys. It was like, oh, Christ's sake, man. Just gets better and better, you know? And I could see just Chris Sutton having a field day with that. I mean, you listen to him winding up players like, you know, former players like Craigan and, you know, Neil McCann and all that.
Yeah, I didn't actually know Stephen Craigan was a player till I met him in the studio. He had to tell me I played with him.
Imagine slagging he was getting Amoruso and all that, you know. And anyhow, I think Sutton, and then I think Hartson was good as well too, because I think he needed to constantly prove himself on the team as well too.
Yeah.
And that's how you prove yourself in a big team. You know, when we're not playing.
I think
Rangers.
I think I think Hartson knew the whole time that Sutton and Larsson were better than him. That is honestly an impression, and I don't mean that but it took bollocks to actually do what Hartson did. But I do think he was acutely aware there were two forwards ahead of him in the pecking order, no matter what. Albeit Sutton was that good, he just played midfield. Right, John, I'll give you a guide this week. John, I'm going to go centre back. You ever tried centre back, John?
I don't know if you remember this, but we covered this weird start during the Martin O'Neill month that we did, where for some reason when Alex McLeish came in as Rangers manager, he went on this run of about 6 games undefeated against Rangers, and I believe the first win that we got against them in that run was in February 2003. And it was John Hartson scored the winner where he ragdolls Amoruso in the edge of the area, chests it down, and then volleys it into the net. And we beat them at Celtic Park.
Brilliant finish.
Brilliant finish. But it was John Hartson that stepped up that day where he muscles Amoruso to the ball, chests it down and volleys it in.
Can I just quickly ask you, Phil? Because your memory is good.
Okay.
Scott McDonald scored a goal almost identical to that against them at Celtic Park.
I am glad that you said that.
So similar, eh?
Yeah. Is this the one? You said Celtic Park. Is this the one at Ibrox where Samaras nods onto him? Because that is the anniversary of that goal. Was just the other day.
No, it's not that one. That's not like, because that's not like the John Hartson one.
Oh, it's very good. Hesselink heads it into his path.
Yes, that's so like that. Reminds me of that Hartson goal against them. Yep. Very similar, at different ends of the park, but that reminds me of it. The one at Ibrox for McDonald was fucking just brilliant.
I say it was the anniversary of that the other day. I think it was Lil Z. Of course, Lil Z tweeted it, and I love the commentary on that from Ian Crocker, and it's like Samaras, McDonald, can he shake off Broadfoot? Yes, he can, and he follows it in the top corner. It's incredible moment. Samaras just gets the wee knock on. It's incredible when that goes on. When I watched the replay back, the celebrations on the bench, Gordon Strachan's quite subdued, just sort of like one hand in the air. Neil Lennon, who was one of his coaches, right on the park celebrating, runs off the bench, fucking loving it, runs on the park celebrating, and it's like, Neil Lennon, he fucking gets it. But no, that's just coming up to the 2 hours, guys. So we've covered quite a wide range of different scalpers over the years, different eras, different moments, and so on. But yeah, hopefully that's got the viewers in the mood for Monday.
I'm in the mood. Mondays can't come quick enough now.
Well, I mentioned earlier on, I did talk about Samaras Sunday when I talked about that 2-0 win in 2011. Somebody on Twitter came up with, could it be a Maeda Monday this coming week? Could you see that? Maybe could you imagine the headlines from Samaras Sunday to Maeda Monday? That would be something. Would that be a headline for the ages? Maeda stepping up and doing it. The new Skelper himself dies in Maeda after that goal through the week, pinging one in from 25 yards. So any goal will do me. Any Celtic goal, I don't care who puts it in the net. Only somebody does, I'll be happy. But no, we'll obviously go to. We do have some trivia to do. It's quite a good one. So,
by the way, just before we leave that, I said,
sure. Yeah.
Only one Scottish person amongst all these Skelpers that we've talked about in the last 20 years. That's surprising.
Scott Brown.
Other players can come from other countries and get the significance of the fixture and be those guys that show up. And it's like, now we're having them. You'd think there'd be more opportunity for Scottish boys to show up and play big in that game. That's what I was saying. Like, that could have been Tierney, right? And it can be McGregor still as well. McGregor plays well against them.
Do you not think though a wee bit? Do you not think a wee bit like that's because the emotional investment's too much? See, if you're not Scottish, see when you're coming from the outside, yes, you get it, and we can talk about it, but they also not have the ability to remove their football from it.
I mean, what for the Lions?
Yeah.
True. It didn't work for Stephen Mahe.
Oh.
Yeah. Him and that fixture was a ticking time bomb.
Oh my God.
Like, you must have more Celtic jerseys than Ange did when he was growing up. You know, more posters of Kenny Dalglish than Ange Postecoglou. That wouldn't be difficult.
Right.
Oh man, but no, you're right. You're right. Scott Brown was the only one that we talked about there. But it's mostly guys that have come from the outside the Scottish football bubble that They just take it. They just get it. But there's probably so many more we could have covered as well. But sadly, we haven't got the time. we can go for about 5 hours talking about it. But yeah, we will wrap up with some trivia, guys. So at the start of the show, I asked, can you name any Celtic first team player since 2010 who scored against Rangers but not while they were playing for Celtic? Now, for clarification, I said first team players because there's people like Greg Spence who never actually played a game for us. And Rangers did have their times down in the lower divisions. There's probably some reserves that were in our squad that went to lower league teams over the years. But I have got 10 here who did play for
I've got another bit I need to quickly ask you. Could they have scored for Celtic as well?
No, they've not scored for Celtic against them, but have scored against Rangers for another team.
Right, so they've not scored for Celtic against Rangers, right?
Not for Celtic. Okay.
Shit.
So there's 10.
I think I'll let Liam go. I've got 4, I think.
Okay.
Right. I'll go with that one first. Pierre Van Hooydonk.
No, Pierre scored for
against them.
Celtic against them a couple of times and against Feyenoord.
But
also it's from 2010 onwards, remember?
Right,
it's more modern era. Aye.
You fire ahead, Russell. I'll catch up.
I'll go for Nadir Chifchi.
Nadir Chifchi is correct, yes. Dundee United. He did indeed.
I've then got Anthony Stokes.
2016 Scottish Cup final.
Final.
Stokes. Yep.
And this is a wild card because I can't picture the goal. Willow Flood.
No.
Right, okay. The other one I put, but I don't think he was still really even active from 2010, even though he was only about 27. Derek Riordan?
Deke Radden. It would be pre-2010, that one. Because that was like...
Okay.
I was in the mid-2000s. So it's 2010 onwards. Derek Radden would be right if I was going all the way back, but I just didn't have the time to go through all the research tonight to go all the way back. But Derek Radden is an honourable shout.
I thought he would have been back in the SPFL, 2010 onwards. I thought, I wonder if he got a goal and he's, it was almost like a swan song for him when he was 27. He was getting wheeled out.
There's a name there's a few names that have came up in the chat that I'm going to say. Philip DeMarco's put Johnny Hayes. No, Johnny Hayes scored the Ibrox for us against them. He did score for Aberdeen, so Johnny Hayes is ruled out. As is Stuart Armstrong, because he scored against them for Celtic as well.
For a couple of times.
Yep.
Shit. Okay.
Scored against them.
Scored against them, but not in a Celtic shirt.
Lee Griffiths.
No, Griffiths
he scored for Celtic, I remember. Against them as well. This is when it gets interesting.
But just never in a Celtic shirt, right?
Never in a Celtic shirt.
Never scored for Celtic against Rangers, but did play for us. But they did get goals against Rangers, but it was for one goal, whatever. But it was for a different team.
There's a few right answers in the chat. I'm looking at now. There's a few people have had some right ones. Here's one again that's wrong from Paul Dyatt. Charlie Mulgrew scored a nice diving header for us in a 3-0 game.
Yep, I thought of him. I had thought of him.
Moy ever scored against them when he played with St Mirren?
Aaron Moy is a correct answer.
Yes, Liam.
Remember, I said earlier on, there's one answer in there that's going to force somebody on the bus. Russell boys, what's your reaction to that news? Aaron Moy in 2011, Christmas Eve.
Yep. I knew it.
We beat Kilmarnock on the same day. They lost in Paisley, and it meant the next game we played was them on the 28th when Joe Ledley scored the winner, and that put us top of the league that season after we were 15 points behind. But Aaron Moy scored the winning goal that day for St Mirren. But here's a thing for you. Here's a clue for you. See, the other St Mirren scorer that day is a right answer as well, if you can remember who that is.
Okay, I've got one. I'll go on, Liam.
Oh, so I'm going to say Dylan McGeer.
That's what I was just about to say him. Not for St Mirren, but I think he's an answer, no?
He's not.
Was it Dylan McGeer?
But you're close. You're close, by the way. I mean, you're not a million miles away with some of these ones.
Another one was Lewis Morgan.
Lewis Morgan is correct. Yes. Lewis Morgan is a correct answer. Lewis Morgan signed for us and then went back on loan to St Mirren and
well done
against them.
Well done. How many have we got? 5.
You've got Morgan, you've got Stokes, you've got Shifty, you've got Moy, so you've got 4 so far.
Fuck off. Fuck off.
You need it the Neil Lennon way.
Fuck off. Shit. Right. Okay. Come on. Let's get real
I'll give you
here.
some hints, Phil.
I'm thinking of Motherwell. I'm
Okay.
thinking Motherwell. I'm thinking Motherwell.
Oh, Motherwell's a good place to go.
I think it is a good place to go. I know.
Okay.
I've got Motherwell in my head.
Well, Turnbull scored against him, so it's not him.
Actually, Turnbull scored for us this season.
Scored
Yep,
last
against
game.
him. Yep, he did indeed. All right.
Yeah, but it's maybe someone who's went there.
Oh,
Yeah, that sounds probable there, Russell Boyce.
Steve McManus?
Yes, Stephen McManus. My clue was
Come on!
See, when you think of Rangers in the banter years and you think of one of the most hilarious results they've had, what's one that springs to mind when they get pumped off Motherwell in the playoffs 6-1 over 2 legs? Steve McManus scored at Ibrox in the first leg.
Oh, brilliant. I love to hear that.
McManus. There you go.
Big Mac.
Yep.
I'll chuck Gary Caldwell in there. I don't think so, though.
No, and he would
Just 'cause
also
you think of
be
his partner.
2010 if that was the case.
I don't know if he came back to Scotland because he was born in 81, so he would only be 29 in 2010.
Okay.
So, you know.
You have said, this will probably give it away, but you need it anyway. You've said Nadia Chifty already. What team did Chifty play for when he scored?
Dundee United.
So think Dundee United players that might have came to Celtic. If I've said Stuart Armstrong's the wrong answer.
Gary Mackay-Steven. Gary Mackay-Steven.
Gary Mackay-Steven scored in the same game. Funny enough, the 3 scorers that day in that cup game were Armstrong, Mackay-Steven, and Shifty.
That's funny, eh? That is funny. And Johnny Russell never played for us, did he? He's just
Johnny
a
Russell
Celtic
didn't play
fan.
for He would have loved to play for us, by the way.
He's just a Celtic fan.
Loved it.
That's fine. Let's do it club by club, Liam. Let's start thinking club by club. I've now got in my mind Paul Hartley. No.
If that be the case, it would be pre-2010 anyway, because Hartley was...
He was booked for Aberdeen in 2010.
Didn't he score against them?
That's what I was thinking. He maybe got a goal for Aberdeen.
Barry Robson.
Barry Robson scored for us against them.
He scored a
penalty.
Mind, he scored the...
You said a second ago, Aberdeen. That's a good place to look.
Right, okay. Andy Considine. Just a joke. Who's went there? Who's went there?
Yes.
We don't sign players for Aberdeen. We let Jamie Smith. Niall McGinn.
Niall McGinn is one of them, but there's another Aberdeen boy. Another one.
So that's fine. Niall
McGinn scored 2 in a cup game against them when Gerrard was in charge and knocked him out at Ibrox.
Ryan Christie.
Yes, Ryan Christie.
Yes,
Aberdeen had not won at Ibrox since like 1991 or something like that, and they beat them in Warburton season. And Ryan Christie, who was on loan from us, scored the winner, but he never actually scored against them when he was a Celtic player. Never. He also scored against them for Inverness Cali Thistle. He also scored against them.
For a guy who had 17,000 shots on goal every single match.
He missed a penalty in a game against them, which wouldn't surprise many people. They beat us 2-1 when Katic and Ryan Kent scored. Christie missed a penalty that day. No.
I forgot that. I can't even picture the penalty. Right.
So, we've got
the hang of this game. We're going to go around clubs. Let's pick another club. I think we've got a strategy now, Liam, big boy. So have we done Aberdeen?
You've done Aberdeen. You've been Motherwell.
Tony what?
Paul McGowan.
Paul McGowan. Well done, Paul McGowan.
Yes! Come on!
Paul McGowan is the other St Mirren one, because on the day that Aaron Moy scored, Paul McGowan scored the other one that day.
Yes,
so you've got one more to get. One more.
Pick a club, Liam. This is working for me. I picked the club.
Dundee.
Oh, no, that's where I got Paul McGowan for.
All right, now. Okay, so Hibs.
Oh, Hibs is good.
Hibs is a good place to look.
I thought it would be. Okay.
I know.
Sources say that Easter Road is a very good place to search for the answer.
No, brilliant. Right, okay, let's think. Who has been there? What diddy, Liam, have we fucking let go back to Hibs or go to Hibs? He's been a fucking shiter. Hey, he's shite. Oh, come on, boysy son.
Maloney.
Obviously, I bet if you're watching this, you're punching the telly. Whatever you're watching.
I'll be looking at chat and see if anyone said this one. I'm just scrolling up the now.
Hibs.
Curiously enough, nobody's said this one yet. I'm scrolling quite a bit back here. Interesting.
Okay. It's gone back
Since
a bit.
2010. Since 2010.
Would you like some sort of clue, or do you?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, not yet. I think you'll get it without a clue anyway.
10 minutes, Phil. Got another day to go. Oh, fuck.
Oh, wait a minute.
Ewan Henderson! Liam, Ewan Henderson!
Ewan Henderson?
No.
Gary Caldwell?
No.
I've said him.
You're saying Henderson because he took the corners that Hibs scored off of in the cup final, but he didn't score.
Billy McGeoch isn't. John McGinlay didn't sign when we should have. Fucking.
Oh, man.
Aidan McGeady? No. He scored.
No, Aidan would have scored for us anyway.
He scored for us, aye.
It's not Ambrose, by people in the chat are saying Ambrose. It's not him.
Good shout, though.
That's a good shout. To be fair, that's a good shout.
Oh, no.
Fuck. I hate this.
Chris Commons was there for a while. Did Chris Commons score against him?
Chris Commons scored for us against him.
Aye.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, I'll take it.
He scored in the game when Neil Lennon famously ran on the park doing the aeroplane celebration. It ended 5 each.
Shit. Oh, Scott Allen.
Scott Allen is the correct answer.
Yes!
Scott Allen.
Right.
Scott Allen went back to Hibs side, but we obviously had him for a wee period as well. But yeah, Aaron Moy, Paul McGowan, Nadia Chifty, Stephen McManus, Ryan Christie, Anthony Stokes, Gary Mackay-Steven, Niall McGinn, Scott Allen, and Lewis Morgan, one of the proclaimers. Yeah, so there you go. That was a fun. So yeah, Scott Allen, there you go. Well done, Michael 89. Well done. Aye, Scott Allen, there you go, guys.
That was good, Phil. That was a good one.
That was scrambled together quite late on. I was trying to think of a wee bit of a different angle, but if I did miss anybody, then nobody cares, mate. Sorry to say, nobody cares if I did miss somebody. But a lot of score on Wikipedia was involved, but I got 10 of them for you, so you've done well to get them all. So good on you, boys. Well done. Another classic.
Thank you, mate. That was good. Yeah. I enjoyed that. That was good. I'm glad that we got a wee strategy there going. Just say a club, and I'm like, right, start picturing players that have played for both teams, and you might get there. No, that was good.
I knew it'd be a good one as soon as Aaron Moy was one of the answers. I was like, perfect. That's exactly what we need. Topical at the moment. So, Russell, anything else you want to tell the viewers about what's coming up at the bus before the game? Is there anything going to be done on Sunday? But that is New Year's Day. I imagine people will be a bit rough.
The issue with Sunday is I'm working still. I'm working a half day.
Okay.
Right? I'm actually still working for New Year's Day. I'm working tomorrow as well. Full shift. So I'm a full shift tomorrow. Half day Sunday, but I'm the back shift Sunday because it's overtime, right? Okay, I'm sick. I'm doing overtime on New Year's Day. I can't say no to it. Anyway, my plan will be to do a Sunday session 9 p.m.
Okay. And that'll be like the big preview for the game the next day.
That'll be the big preview. I ain't getting up at fucking 10 in the morning kidding you on that I'm up for it because I'm not.
Somebody,
I'm up at 5
somebody said it last night. Was it last night's show? One of the shows, are you going to do a breakfast bar on Monday morning before the game, Russell?
Get the fuck. Whoever came up with the breakfast bar idea is a clown.
What were they thinking?
No, it was bloody me. It was bloody me, Liam, honestly. Freaking glutton for punishment. I actually hate myself. See, every morning when I wake up to it, I go, I don't know how folk do this. I don't know how people get up at this time in the morning.
Oh, shut up.
Shut your aye, but
4 o'clock.
But we'll do some form of Sunday session Sunday night. If I need to do it on my own, Ryan Taylor, and I need to speak, I will do so. But I'm guessing everyone's going to be off the Monday anyway, so fuck it. Do you know what I mean? We will. I think folk will want to come on. I think the excitement will get the better. So I think we'll have a bit of a team on Sunday evening. Obviously, you are both more than welcome. And then Monday we'll be doing post-match press. I don't even care anymore. We'll just go straight after the game. 10 minutes after it, 15 minutes after it. Fucking fire us on.
Aye. Why
folk
not?
Watch.
Of course they will.
We're doing okay.
Aye.
So we'll just fucking get on with it.
Aye. So
sitting pussyfooting about over pricks. I don't give a fuck. We're just going.
Exactly.
Bottom ass. We're just going at the same time.
Aye.
See what happens.
few exciting days coming up then on the own bus. But yeah, that wraps us up then for the Skelpers edition. Thank you everyone for refraining from not saying the full term as well, and the chat well behaved. We didn't bring up any comments that might have had that word in it, but yeah, it's been good. It's been lively. There's 68 people still watching now, so remember what to do, folks. Hit that like button. If you're brand new on the bus, you've sat and watched this entire time, thought, I want to see more of these guys, then hit that subscribe button and you will see
yes.
You won't be able to get rid of us. You'll be sick of us by the end of it. And of course,
buy a program on the way out as well, you bunch of fuckers. Come on.
Exactly. Right, we are out of here, guys. It's been a pleasure as always, and we shall see you on Sunday.
Bye.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.